We are Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa once again. My name, of course, Eben Jansen. This show is always live and broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. Now, between 9 and 12 every weekday morning, you can catch us live on YouTube as well. We've got a live streaming channel there and you can watch it back on demand a little bit later in the day. Anine isn't here today, so we're going to go straight into a news update. What's happening with Elvis Presley.
Thank you, Eben. Sentencing is expected against Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs. The Labour Department to release a preliminary findings into the cause of the Sandton pedestrian bridge collapse. And exactly 2 weeks after the start of the historic Fees Must Fall campaign, academic activities are expected to resume at the epicenter of the protests at the University of the Witwatersrand, and we'll keep you updated on that. Those are all your headlines, but first let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's he has in store for us in the sports news. A very good morning to you, Kendall.
Good morning, Elvis, and thank you very much, and good morning to you at home as well. This is what we've got in store for you in the sports today. SuperSport United break their 4-match drought in Port Elizabeth, beating hosts Chipa United 2-0 in an upset premiership match. Did Australia try to buy the 2022 World Cup? Well, England is investigating. And defending champions New Zealand's All Blacks in training ahead of the Rugby World Cup final. All this while Roger Federer, vying for his 7th title at the Basel International, raced past Mikhail Kukushkin in just 55 minutes last night. And that's what we've got for you in the sports at 10:20. Make sure you're around for that. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. Our top story this hour. A preliminary report on the findings of what may have caused the collapse of a temporary pedestrian bridge in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, earlier this month, will be revealed by the Department of Labour. Our reporter, Hasina Gori, now joins us from Pretoria. Hasina, a very good morning to you. And can you tell us what is happening there this morning?
Good morning, Urban. We're standing outside the Labori House, which is the Department of Labour's house in Pretoria, where in an hour's time the media is expected to be briefed on one of the first of a few reports on what caused the pedestrian bridge to collapse on the peak time traffic almost 2 weeks ago. There's been various speculations into what caused the collapse, which left 2 people dead and a few tens injured. There have been speculations that a gust of wind, when we spoke to eyewitnesses, they described, seeing a gust of wind or hearing a gust of wind and seeing the bridge shake before it collapsed on top of a few cars. We also heard, some reports or rumors of a concrete cement truck, which was parked on the side, which may have caused the bridge to collapse. But we will hear now today what did cause it. It's a preliminary investigation. There are a few others which are being investigated on. The police having opened an inquest. The city of Johannesburg is also looking into this, as well as the engineering board and the construction company, Malaria and Roberts. They said that this their report could take a while before it is finalized.
Hasina, why is this report so important?
Almost 2 weeks ago, you'd remember, on a Wednesday afternoon, just before peak time traffic, the pedestrian bridge that was being constructed on the M1 highway, just off Grahamstown Drive in Sandton, collapsed over a few cars. It crushed, a taxi as well as a Fortuner and 2 other vehicles. It left 2 people dead, both 27 to 28-year-old males. They died almost on impact and injured tens of others. What caused this pedestrian bridge to collapse is unknown, and people want to know because people's lives were endangered and people were injured in this. So it's important to know what caused this and how can we ensure that this does not occur again.
Is there a media frenzy around this issue? Is there a number of people that's going to attend the session?
It's expected that a lot of media houses would come through. As you remember, when the bridge did collapse, there was a media hype around it. Various different houses were there, at the scene, reporting as it occurred. The road was closed for almost 24 hours. One of the cars was only removed almost 12 hours later. So there was a hype, and I'm sure we're going to expect to see a lot of media here later in the day when it does convene.
Do we expect the families of the victims and those injured also to be present today or not?
The families we've spoken to, some were not even aware that the investigations, were going to be released today. Many are not going to be here. We spoke with the family of the deceased taxi driver, and they were not even made aware that this report will be released. Also, I've heard the city of Johannesburg, the mayor wouldn't be here, as well as Malaria and Roberts, which is a construction company. Speaking to them earlier this morning, they said that they weren't even given the findings yet, so they're waiting to find out, what did the Department of Labour find.
Hasina, you'll keep us updated on the proceedings there in Pretoria. That's Hasina Gori, our reporter from Pretoria. We'll keep you updated as that story unfolds. Now, academic activities are set to resume at Wits University today, exactly 2 weeks after the fees must fall protest started at the institution. Our reporter Njanji Chauke is at Wits. Njanji, a very good morning to you and welcome. Can you tell us what is the situation like this morning at Wits?
Yes, good morning, Elvis. The situation is very tense here at Wits University. As you know, that the lectures were supposed to resume this morning, but we understand that in the early hours of the morning, a part of the library was gutted, as well as at least 2 cars that were damaged overnight. There's a heightened security presence. There's also a private security company that has been deployed outside the university, as well as members of the public order policing. You'll recall that yesterday the university management, as well with student representatives, resolved that lectures will resume today. Some of the students have been arriving here, going into the lecture rooms to try and proceed with their studies, but cars that have been trying to access the building have been denied access. At some stage, there was got very tense. We saw some of the protesters throwing rocks at the security company. But joining me right now is one of the students that has just arrived at the university. Tell us a bit more about the situation here. There was a number of delays in terms of the lectures. How does it feel to be back today?
Well, it was very reassuring to be back today. However, I thought that I'd come to a more peaceful situation, and I really just thought that the protest would be over, considering that the SRC and the university itself agreed to resume lectures. And considering that we missed out about 3 weeks of lectures, it was just unsettling, not knowing when exams are going to take place and if there's going to be a delay. So I just hope that lectures resume as per normal and that exams do take place this year and not next year.
I mean, it's very significant that exams do take place, especially for all the students, including yourself. You're doing your LLB at the moment. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, my first exam is supposed to be on the 5th of November, which is just next week. And right now, we haven't even completed lectures. So I just don't know the content of the examination as yet. If we're going to have self-study sections because of what we've missed out on, or if the exams are going to be edited, if it's just going to be pushed back so that we can complete the syllabus and then write as it was planned. And it kind of feels like, in a way, we've been cheated if we don't do all the work that was supposed to be a part of our syllabus. Because, I mean, we do need this. I mean, studying law, you're going to need every single bit that they teach you in practice. So, yeah.
Okay. Elvis, there you have it from one of the concerned students, Sashni Naidu, who's currently doing her LLB, arriving here earlier this morning to find a very tense situation. I saw one of the security guard bleeding earlier. He sustained an injury during that earlier incident of stone throwing. Elvis, is back to your studio.
Thank you so much, Njanji Chauke at Wits, and we'll keep you updated as we continue during the course of the program. But right now, it's over to Eben with some more in-depth interviews and reviews.
Yeah, thank you, Elvis. The fees debate continues to grip the nation. Yesterday, Higher Education Minister Bladen Zimandi said details of how our government will deal with a 2.7 billion rand shortfall for student funding in 2016 will be announced tomorrow. He was speaking during a debate in Parliament following the 0% fee increase announced by President Jacob Zuma about a week ago now.
Government must have the political will to tax the rich and the wealthy to fund higher education. None of us must develop cold feet about the necessity of taxing the rich to fund our children.
The Higher Education Minister dishing out some of the solutions aimed at resolving the ongoing higher education crisis. But he says whatever solution his department and the Treasury will come up with this week will not be enough. More resources will be needed in the future.
An additional amount of 37 billion rands in 2011 rand value is required in the baseline over the 2016-2017 to 2018-2019 medium-term expenditure framework to cover the full cost of study loans for poor and working-class students.
But opposition parties were still not convinced that Nzimande was up to the task at hand. Most of them described his statement as too little, too late, while others called for his resignation.
This crisis was created by an executive that failed to act. The president failed to act, Minister Nzimande failed to act, and now we face the consequences.
The Honourable Minister must do the honourable thing and he must resign. South Africa can ill afford to continue on this slippery slope of incompetence and failure.
The big problem here, why there's no free education now, which we should have been progressing to, is because the ruling party is mismanaging our funds, they are misusing public funds, they are not doing with it what we give them to do.
The Honourable Nzimande has for the past 20 years agitated for a popular revolution. When it finally arrived, he was on the wrong side, the receiving end of trying to make it.
Clamping down on corruption, reining in tax evaders, reducing the public sector wage bill, cutting the size of the cabinet, and reducing the number of provinces from 9 to 4 were some of the suggestions made by legislators. Now all eyes will be on Thursday's announcement when the presidency and other stakeholders will be briefing the nation on the short to medium-term solutions. Manilisi Tubase, SABC News, Parliament.
The Department of Higher Education and Training is expected to brief the Portfolio Committee on Education and Training today on intervention plans to address protests over student fees at universities around the country. On Thursday, the Higher Education Minister, Bladen Zimandi, will release details of where the 2.6 billion rand will be generated from after government's decision not to increase the 2016 tuition fees at tertiary institutions. Now, Minister Nzimande, who led a debate on higher education transformation in the National Assembly yesterday, says various stakeholders will come on board. Now, our Parliamentary reporter, Lucanio Talata, joins us from Parliament in Cape Town now to talk about what transpired yesterday. Once again, a very heated discussion took place in the National Assembly yesterday. Before we get into what happened yesterday, let's just talk about what the next couple of days holds for us. Are you hopeful that substantive measures will be put forward to deal with the shortfall that we're talking about now?
Good morning, Eben. Look, I don't think me being hopeful is going to do much. I think, though, that the Minister, Bladen Zimande, his department, and to a large extent the government know that if there's not substantive measures put on the table to kind of allay everybody in the country's fears to say, look, we are going to do this, then I am sure we can expect more uprisings from the students. I think the minister is smart enough to have recognized that he needs to act, and he needs to act in the right way. And I'm sure, even that tomorrow's announcement will be substantive. They will put concrete measures on the table for everybody to see that actually this government is serious about free education, or else. You know, we've seen what the students have done up until now. If they feel that that it's what's put on the table tomorrow isn't enough, then I'm sure we can expect more protests, we can expect uprisings, and we can expect them this time to be a little bit more forceful than what they were last week and the weeks before that. Eben.
Let's go back to yesterday. It was another action-packed day in the National Assembly. There were even some calls for the minister to resign. Just take us back to yesterday's debate.
Yeah, but I think we all knew it was coming. You know, I was discussing, I think, with Elvis yesterday morning, and I was saying that this debate was likely to be used by the political parties, the opposition parties, to a very large extent to try and get themselves into this protest and make themselves a part of this unfolding story that is being led by the students. So we expected it to a very large extent to be robust, to you know, for the minister's head, to you know, that opposition parties will call for the minister's head, that there will be heavy criticism, not just on the minister or the president, but on the government at large. You know, what we found ironic yesterday while we were watching the debate in the office. For instance, someone like now COPE leader Mr. Misiwa Likota, you know, he was part of government for a very long time. So, and he was standing in the National Assembly yesterday, and he was saying, and he was criticizing Mr. Nzimande, and we were all thinking how rich of him to be able to do so when he was actually a part of government at one point, and how much had he done at the time. So we expected what came out of the National Assembly yesterday. We expected it to be robust, and it was exactly that. And we expect that political parties, opposition parties, will continue with this line of criticism against the minister, of criticism against the president, of criticism against the government, because obviously, as you would know, there's an election coming up next year, and all of these parties want to be seen as being part of this, if I can call it a revolution, or they definitely do not want to be left out of it. Eben.
Now, Lekanya, there were some students who attended the debate in the National Assembly yesterday, and afterwards they came out and they were critical of MPs. They spoke about MPs grandstanding in the National Assembly around this emotive issue, and even trying to score political points. Did you pick up on that?
Even yes, we did. I think the students have been very clear from day one of this matter. You remember, of course, that DA leader Musi Maimane was a few days ago, he was asked to leave the University of Cape Town when he had gone there to basically go and check up on the students. Well, so he claimed. Former DA leader Helen Zille was also asked to leave Stellenbosch. You know, we know that the EFF, for instance, they had at some point last week got up in the National Assembly holding up papers saying, well, fees must fall, fees must fall. So all of these political parties are really trying to get involved and trying to have the endorsement, if I can call it that, of the students. But the students have been very clear. They've been very, very set in their ways, and they're all saying they do not want this protest of theirs, this uprising of theirs to be used for politics. You know, they don't want it to be politicized. They want free education. They're determined to get it, and they do not want to be used in this whole political machine that is, of course, Parliament and government to a very large extent. So the students are clear, and they continue to be very clear with that. And what they're seeing, what the political parties are doing, and they're just saying, look, don't use our name. When you do what you do, don't try to impress us, because we're not impressed. Eben.
Lucanio, thank you very much for that update from Parliament. Our parliamentary reporter, Lucanio Talata, telling us about what happened in Parliament yesterday. Of course, it was an emotive issue. The education revolution is what some calling it at the moment here in South Africa. We've got a story that is happening right now, and we have to cross there. Judge Colin Lamont is expected to begin sentencing proceedings against Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused who've been convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs. That's happening in the High Court here in Johannesburg this morning. Now, for a quick update, we are joined from court by our own reporter, Gillian Pillay. Very good morning to you, Gillian. Thank you for joining us.
Very good morning to you, Eben. Yes, this is a case that has attracted a lot of attention. We're also expecting sentencing proceedings to get underway here. It's a case that's been marred by a whole lot of stops and starts, a lot of delays. So we're very keen to see that today's proceedings will get underway. You know, Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir, a very controversial figure. I'm sure we've been kept abreast of that very elaborate attempted escape at the Zonderwater prison a few weeks ago. But as recent as Sunday, we saw a lady being arrested, a 45-year-old estate agent. She appeared in court yesterday. There we heard that she she tried to smuggle a cell phone to Krejcir. So, you know, this case, as I said, is attracting a lot of the media attention. Even if proceedings don't get underway, I think a lot of media will come here just to see what frame of mind, what demeanor Krejcir will put forward today, looking at all these attempted escapes that has been in the media. Eben.
Now, Gillian, the escapes have been quite high profile, but tell us about the sentencing procedure today. How do we expect this to proceed, and do you think it can be handled in one single day?
You know, even the trial in itself, it ran over a few months, and it ran into years, like I think around about 2 years. So no, it's not procedures that could run over one day. It's likely to run over a few days, and during this sentencing procedures, it's where the defense will, you know, put their foot forward, asking, you know, for a lenient sentence, but the prosecution will ask for a more heftier sentence. So they'll bring witnesses to testify. The prosecution will bring witnesses to bolster their case, to, you know, speak against Krejcir, saying why he should get a heftier sentence, whereas the prosecution obviously would put a lot of detail forward, portraying Krejcir as a man, you know, with a human side, a man whose family has been deported, and they'd hope that Judge Lamont would take those factors into consideration when sentence is eventually handed down. Eben.
Gillian, just finally, now we know about the escape plans, and the police have said that they believe that this man wants to escape and wants to get away from justice. Security arrangements around there, I don't see many uniforms around you. Is there a heightened police presence today?
Yeah, but we are standing outside of court. We are yet to go inside to set up for the live broadcast that's going to take place from 10 o'clock this morning. Krejcir is always surrounded by heavy security, the tactical task force that's been accompanying him. He's always, you know, been traveling in an entourage when coming to court. And you know, it's like they cordon streets off to get Krejcir into the holding cell. So yes, you can't really see security around me right now because we're outside, but he's always surrounded by tight security, especially with what has been out in the media around the attempted escapes that we've seen in recent weeks, Eben. So it's a man that many perceive as very dangerous, a man that many say, you know, one day he'll probably, you know, he's been trying to, or allegedly attempting to escape, and it could possibly happen like when he left his hometown under those conditions, the Czech Republic, under those very you know, when he also escaped, as many says. Eben.
Gillian, thank you for that update. If there is an escape, please be ready. We'll be crossing to you live if that happens. Gillian Pillay is outside the High Court here in Johannesburg. Of course, Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his co-accused, well, they are going through sentencing procedures today. It's a very high-profile case here in South Africa. We'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the morning how matters develop there. If there is any developments, many people are expecting fireworks to happen at the High Court now. But we move on, as we always do now. Something that is of concern. A study conducted by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases has revealed that drug-resistant malaria parasites from Southeast Asia can in fact infect African mosquitoes. Now, the study, which was published in Nature Communications, revealed that the parasite has evolved to resist the effects of artemisinin, which is currently the first line of treatment for malaria. Now, the World Health Organization estimates that 3.2 billion people around the world are now at risk of contracting the disease, and in 2013 an estimated 163 million cases of malaria occurred on the African continent alone, resulting in more than 500,000 deaths. Now, although there aren't any cases of the drug-resistant malaria documented in Africa right now, this latest study certainly fuels fears in the region, where a child dies of the disease every 30 seconds. Now, we're fortunate today to have an expert, Professor Lucille Bloomberg, who is Deputy Director at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases here in South Africa. Professor, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Should we be very, very concerned on the African continent right now?
So we do need to be concerned. Currently, as you mentioned, the parasites respond very well to the artemisinin drugs, which are part of first-line therapy. But drug-resistant malaria previously has evolved in Southeast Asia to chloroquine, which is a very useful drug, and then has spread to Africa, rendering that drug really useless for treatment programs.
Are we keeping up with the virus? How is this evolving?
Parasite.
The parasite.
Yes.
The parasite.
Yes.
I'm not an expert. That's why you're here today, ma'am.
So the parasites, the viruses, the bacteria are often one step ahead of us. So we need to use treatment drugs very carefully. For malaria, key is to use a combination of drugs, artemisinin plus a second compound, to reduce the chance of resistance.
Now, what is known about the long-term effects of drugs that are commonly used to treat and prevent malaria?
Well, drugs are very safe. The problem arises when they become less effective. Malaria is a treacherous disease, but early treatment with an effective drug really saves lives.
What about research? Is it, we see within the spectre of HIV/AIDS and TB and some terms pharmaceutical companies, it's simply not financially viable for them to continue with research modules with those diseases. What about malaria? Are we there?
So malaria doesn't attract lots of attention, and there are very few drugs. So we absolutely need to preserve what we have. We have an excellent program at the University of Cape Town, drug discovery. They identified some years ago a fantastic new compound, but it's in development, and a number of studies are being done, so that's a long way off. We need to preserve what we have.
Talking about fighting this disease, we saw that a group of children in Tanzania produce an antibody, or it looks like an antibody that attacks the parasite itself. What does this discovery mean in the fight against malaria? Could it be that silver bullet, that massive step forward?
Well, you know, we know that in Africa, children are the most vulnerable. The first attack, fortunately, leads to death in a number of them. But with repeat attacks, they develop some immunity, so the attacks become less severe. But you still need an effective drug. The vaccine hasn't provided all the answers. And I think the key is to preserve our drugs, to use them properly, and to treat early. We monitor drug resistance in South Africa. There isn't any at the moment, and that's important to pick it up early in the continent so that we can introduce different strategies.
Now, when we see this kind of news coming, it's easy, mass hysteria always comes into the fray. What's your message to the general public with regards to this development and how people should maybe look at protecting themselves?
Yeah, so there are good protective measures to protect against malaria, preventing mosquito bites. Many parts of Africa, they use nets, spray indoors. Travellers can use drugs and measures to protect themselves. I think the key is if you develop a flu-like illness with fever, malaria is rapidly progressive, get urgent diagnosis, urgent treatment, and take the drugs properly. They are currently very effective in Africa.
And what would you say are the areas right now that we can consider very high risk?
Well, I think most of Africa has a risk for malaria, particularly during the rainy season. South Africa is confined to our border areas, and we've made big advances. The big risk for drug resistance is in Southeast Asia. And there have been some problems with the usage of drugs, using single drugs, poor quality drugs that have really fueled drug resistance. Parasites are one step ahead.
Parasites. Thank you. I've learned something this morning. That's Professor Lucille Bloomberg, who's Deputy Director at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases here in South Africa. We're talking about malaria, drug-resistant malaria, and the threats for the entire continent going forward. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, now let's move on and take a look what's happening in the courts here around South Africa. We'll start in Johannesburg. As I spoke to Gillian a little bit earlier, Judge Colin Lamont is expected to start sentencing Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused in the High Court there. The 6 men have been convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs, and sentencing will start at around 10 o'clock this morning. Now in KwaZulu-Natal, 2 men who allegedly killed 8 members of the Mwabe family in Imabahleni on the KwaZulu-Natal south coast. Well, they're expected to be in court for a bail application there today. Now, our question of the day today is a very interesting question. We saw yesterday thousands of EFF supporters who joined the Parliamentary Economic Freedom March. We ask you, what is economic freedom? It's not a loaded question because we are not 100% sure ourselves what economic freedom entails. Do you? Send us your contribution there. Now, they marched to the Chamber of Mines, the Reserve Bank, and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange yesterday. The party leader has threatened to disrupt the JSE if it doesn't respond to the party's memorandum in 30 days. The party is demanding improved minimum wages across all sectors, to name but one of the demands. There are a whole host of others. Let's take a look at some of the comments that people have been putting in on social media with regards to yesterday's march. It was some fantastic pictures that have been doing the rounds. Nelborn Bariao says one of the most hardened critics would deny that this big display of public support for the Economic Freedom March is impressive politically. Reginald Pueri says, if people can walk such a distance, Economic Freedom March, with a bottle of water only, that must tell people in power something. There's one of the pictures from the march. That is a young school girl talking about economic freedom, and it's in from Selona Mojiani. Though that's their future is in EFF. We dare not disappoint them. Talking about the Economic Freedom March. There you see some of the pictures from yesterday. Ndavuko talks about only Juju can pull such massive crowd. Where are the naysayers now? EFF March for Economic Freedom. That's the economic hub of South Africa. Sandton, where the march took place yesterday. Fana Mokwena talks about the fight has been taken directly to capital. Now it is on. We ask you the question. Khagelo Molekwa says, really, we are a government in waiting? That is the question. Yes, a government needs policies. What are the economic policies? We ask that you put forward. Send us your tweets around our question of the day. Our question of the day is a straightforward question. What is economic freedom? How do you view that? There it is. We'd love to hear your contributions on what is economic freedom. Now we move on and we take a look at our picture of the day. This one comes from Mama of the Mob, and it's captioned, Wits on fire. Broken turnstiles at Wits sent by a friend. Apparently this was their tactic to continue a shutdown. Now, we heard a report from Njanji Chake there that it's still very tense on the Wits campus this morning, despite them coming up with a 9-point agreement, and the academic program was supposed to continue today. Let's move on and take a look at what's happening elsewhere. Front pages from around the globe now. We start in Europe with the Times, where reports that America is considering putting boots on the ground in Syria for the first time to fight the Islamic State. Then we move to Israel. The Jerusalem Post says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is ready to meet with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. An official in the Prime Minister's office said so yesterday. That's an interesting development. Then in China, the South China Morning Post reports that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has warned the U.S. not to make trouble out of nothing in the South China Sea, amid reports that the U.S. Navy plans to send its ships close to islands that have been claimed by China. Interesting development that as well. Time now for us to take a break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC.
SABC brings to you Rugby World Cup 2015.
When bees and wasps sting a person, they inject a bitterness venom in their skins.
We have about 3 spider species in South Africa that we have to worry about. Button spiders, which include, the black widow spiders, your sac spiders, and your violent spiders.
That venom is in your system, it's in your muscle tissue. And the more your heart beats, the faster your heart beats, the faster the blood is going to circulate, and consequently it's going to get that venom into your system faster.
If you see a snake like this, the best thing to do is to just stay away from it and contact somebody that specializes in removing venomous snakes.
Join me on Health Talk every Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. as we unpack current health stories.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom. Now, this week it emerged that more than 400 foreign nationals have been and remain displaced in Grahamstown in the Eastern Cape. This as their spaza shops were vandalized and looted by community members in Joza Township last week. It's believed that the 5-day looting spree was sparked by the discovery of a number of bodies during the past month. Now, the community of foreign nationals say the police failed them as they did approach officers a week earlier with concerns that rumours over the murders could lead to xenophobic attacks. Now, to put us into the picture as to what actually happened, we're joined by the African Diaspora Forum's acting Public Relations Officer, Johnson Imeka. Very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. How are you?
What exactly happened in the Joza Township in the last couple of weeks?
It's been a pathetic situation over time. The bad thing about this is that the community had snippets of information or fears raised because of the rumors that had been going around. Even the radio stations in Grahamstown, the public newsletters, they anticipated that it's going to be an eruption of xenophobic attack because of snippets of information that have been coming in about mutilated bodies found in bushes, in the velds. And the suspicion is that the foreign nationals are part of these ritualistic killings.
Witchcraft?
Witchcraft,
yes.
What have you, yeah. But actually what spurred the xenophobic attack, the last one, was the taximen's riot. The taximen, they marched to the city hall, and from there it spread.
Yes.
And believe you me, that season was a very mad season within the country. The students of Wits University were having their own demonstration.
So you're saying it was a kind of mob mentality that spilled over into the easy targets, which happened to be foreign nationals.
Exactly. The community was tensed at the initial, and the student riot, the taximen's demonstration to the City Hall, ignited a full-blown xenophobic attack, looting, maiming of people, and a lot of people are displaced. Over 400 are displaced. But the good thing that happened equally was there was a local organization that came up, the unemployed people's movement.
Yeah.
They tried to ameliorate, to intervene, to save lives.
The intervention, that's the intervention that's taking place. I wanted to ask you, we've spoken to the Makana municipality and the police. Rihanna Mayring is there, he was their point of contact. She says the municipality and the police is assisting or doing what they can to help the foreign nationals. Foreign nationals, they are saying they're being ignored by the municipality and by the police. What is the official view?
Eben, speaking the truth, the police were nowhere to be found. They had a lot of apathy towards the foreigners. Can you imagine that the police, anyway, maybe they are overworked because they had to get a reinforcement from East London, because they have the students' demonstration in one hand, and the community demonstration in another. But the over-concentration of armaments, water cannons, the stone grenades on the students instead of the mob action, because the students' demonstration was more peaceful, organized. The staffs were part of it. The university VC was part of it. But the mob action was more dastardly. And we had believed that the mob action, looting, should have taken more precedence in policing, by policing, than the students' riot. It's not that the students should not be, but they were not violent.
They were not violent. These were attacks on people's property and on their lives. Now, you mentioned the media a little bit earlier. I wanted to talk about the role of the media in all of this. Tell us what is your concern with regards to the media? You mentioned rumors that were being spread. Can you tell us exactly what was being said in the media and these rumors?
You see, the media did not help matters equally, because, the major media have been maybe focusing on big town. Grahamstown happens to be a small town. It was the local newsletters and the local radio that actually talked on it. The big stations never gave any hoots about it. But what they did was, they didn't help matter in the sense that they exposed the fact that the city is tensed, the community is tensed, but they were given airtime to the aggrieved. Like the taxi, the taxi organization, the people like the unemployed movement were not given opportunity to speak. To speak to the public and to cool down the tension. The tension built over time. For 2 weeks, it built over time. And the police were duly informed. Marches. There was a march on the 30th of September. There was another meeting on the 12th of October before the eruption of this incident by the 21st.
Now, the accusations of witchcraft that we've seen, and then there are also, of course, bodies that were found and so forth. Tell us about those bodies. Were they mutilated, and what are the precise accusations against the community of foreign businessmen and nationals there in the area?
Believe me, we only hear of this accusation of the mutilated body. Nobody has been able to identify this is a person that is missing, this person is mutilated, or this person is being accused. It was just a general branding of foreigners that they are part of this, of missing people, mutilating bodies, and what have you. So we as a community never experienced or never saw even mutilated bodies or anything. But the society was rife
It was used as a platform for these attacks.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's the acting PRO, Public Relations Officer of the African Diaspora Forum, Johnson Imeka. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Evan.
Now, academic activity is set to resume at Wits. It should have started already following more than a week of student protests there last night. Several fires were started on the university's Braamfontein campus here in Johannesburg, and at least 2 vehicles were torched, and morning workers gathered to stage a protest at the university's entrance. They are demanding an end to outsourcing there now, as the crisis seems to deepen. There have been lots of tweets around the fires overnight. Pictures have been sent in. Let's go onto our social media platforms and have a look at some of the tweets and indeed some of the pictures, if we have those. Nati talks about students disrupting lectures at Wits, risk turning the students against them. Students must remain central. Talking about Wits on fire. Menzi says, passed Wits earlier and saw cops outside the gates and students protesting inside. What's going on? Ask Menzi. In 2015, we saw UCT, Wits, Stellies and UP students toy, and no one called them hooligans. So they shall not call others hooligans, says Mulungisi. There you have a picture of students arriving on campus. This morning. We spoke to our reporter in Janju Childcare, who's on campus there. He says that it's very tense on the Wits campus. There are still pockets of protest happening there. Of course, workers protesting against outsourcing is there. Let's now take a look at Newsroom Facebook page. You can have a look at what the big stories we've got on there. Of course, that preliminary report on the findings of what may have caused the collapse of the Grahamstown Bridge in Sandton earlier this month will be revealed by the Department of Labour today. Then Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara won a blowout poll victory and a second 5-year term in office in a weekend vote intended to draw a line under years of turmoil and a 2011 civil war in the country. Then Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. That's why the BRICS nations. Their global university summit is underway in Moscow in Russia right now. It unites more than 400 representatives from leading universities of these nations. Maybe they can give us some advice. For more news and updates, you can go to our Newsroom Facebook page. In the search bar on Facebook, you just put in SABC Newsroom. That Newsroom page will pop up. We will ask you to like our page, and we will then send you all the latest information in your Facebook feed. Now, our question of the day is directed at you, our viewer. We want to know, what is economic freedom? It is a concept that is doing the rounds in South Africa in recent months and years. We want to know, what is your view of economic freedom? What is it? At SABC Newsroom on Twitter. You can also go onto our Facebook page and just write in what you write as a message, or to the page for that matter. We'll put it up at the end of the show. We'd really like to know what you think about the concept. Time for us now to take a break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News.
And wasps sting a person, they inject a bitterness venom in their skins.
We have about 3 spider species in South Africa that we have to worry about. Button spiders, which include, the black widow spiders, your sac spiders, and your violent spiders.
That venom is in your system, it's in your muscle tissue. And the more your heart beats, the faster your heart beats, the faster the blood is going to circulate, and consequently it's going to get that venom into your system faster.
If you see a snake like this, the best thing to do is to just stay away from it and contact somebody that specializes in removing venomous snakes.
Join me on Health Talk every Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. as we unpack current health stories.
Welcome back with Newsroom. Yeah, it's once again another busy day ahead of us here. Malaria is standing by to give us a weather update shortly. But before I come to you, there are a couple of things we want to talk about. I've got Elvis here with me. Elvis, we're preparing for a bumper news bulletin at 10 o'clock, live crossings around the country. Lots of things happening. Just give us a kind of heads up where we're at.
Rundown, before we get to the comments, there's 17 schools in the Northwest are not writing exams. That's the big story now, 10 o'clock. Plus, there's also upheaval at the Maikeng campus, so we'll also take a look at that. But there's a number of comments that's coming in currently on all the universities. This one, for instance, here from Kagelo KG Magolejo says the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Limpopo, Professor Mahlo Makolong, is sitting with the students at the Turf Loop campus. As you can see, there's part of the Fees Must Fall campaign, the hashtag there. And then we see a couple of pictures here coming up that we can see here from some students in the streets there. This one from Lee Bailey that says that's
Cape Town, yeah. Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Students still at it. That's turned quite violent. We've seen vehicles being burnt, violence on campus, vehicles overturned. These are the kinds of pictures that are doing the rounds in Cape Town. Now, we were accused yesterday on our Facebook page of only focusing on Wits. And we can tell you now, well, we're looking all around the country to try and keep abreast of all these developing stories that we see on our campuses.
There's also the one that you see there from Teto on the results of the Fees Must Fall. Students destroying the security camera screen, as you can see on the back of that particular picture. So a lot of violence at all these protests, and we'll also keep you updated in terms of what's happening at Wits.
Very, very concerning what is happening, Elvis. Elvis, of course, is right on top of all of us. He will give us that update in about 9-8 minutes' time, the top of the hour. Lots of live news happening around the country. Radovan Krejcir's court case. Well, sentencing procedures are happening there. There's a huge flight risk that's been attached to Radovan Krejcir. Gillian Pillay is there. We'll be live there as well. Elvis has all of that. But Tsietse, give us some good news. It looks as if matters are quite somber today.
Yeah, I hope there's some good news. The problem is hot weather coming up over the western parts of the country.
But you said rain is coming. You said rain is coming. On Monday, you said rain is coming this week.
And didn't we have rain on Tuesday? Yes or no?
No, but that was just a couple of specks of rain.
No, we had almost a full day of rain actually on Tuesday. Some rainy conditions towards KwaZulu-Natal. In fact, there's some of it also expected today, especially towards the northern part of KZN and the southern part of Mozambique. So, yeah, have to wait and see.
Nice to be the weatherman. Tsietse Monaro is going to give us a complete update, and he's saying it's getting hotter and hotter. Tsietse, take it away, mate.
All right, so welcome from the weather desk. Let's quickly have a look at this rainfall for you that Eben is talking about. It looks like only a little bit of it is expected to us, just that eastern as well as over the northeastern part of southern Africa. Something to look out for is the fell fires that we're expecting over the west. Those could lead to temperatures being really high for the Karoo, going up towards the Northern Cape province. Partly cloudy skies for tomorrow over most parts of southern Africa towards Namibia as well as over Zambia, including Malawi and Tanzania. Otherwise, clear conditions are expected over the southern tips, over South Africa. Possibilities of showers for Mozambique. There is actually a good chance, 60% chance of rainfall that is expected. Then temperatures for Johannesburg just around 27 to 30 degrees. It is going to get a bit hotter towards Mafikeng as well as over Vryburg. You see temperatures starting to lower 30s, higher 30s for Vryburg. And as you move further towards the western side, that's where you should expect really hot weather. Sutherland 35 degrees, 37 for Vredendal. The Eastern Cape province joins the pack, temperatures 38 towards Grahamstown, and then Beaufort West is at 42 degrees. So all possibilities of these temperatures increasing are quite high because of the wildfire danger that we're expecting there. 38 for Keetmanshoop, and as you move further towards the northern parts of Namibia, temperatures also staying into the upper 30s for Oshakati, Tsumeb, as well as over Rundu. Hot weather moving over the central parts of southern Africa as well. It looks like there'll be a bit of clouds, but it's actually going to be slightly sunnier towards Gaborone as well as over Tabong, including Hukunzi. And then those partly cloudy skies moving towards some parts of Zimbabwe. You saw that over the eastern side, that's where you should expect possibilities of rain for Pemba, going all the way towards Quelimane and Chimoyo. Hot weather persisting over the central as well as over the southern parts of Mozambique. But then Mbabane in Swaziland and Maputo, the capital of Mozambique, are expecting possibilities of rain and temperatures also dropping to about 27. We're seeing other 20s for Farafangana as well as over Fianarantsoa over Madagascar. But as you move further towards the northern part, it gets hotter and hotter. Majanga 34, Maindarana 31, and we're seeing Morombe also just around 31 degrees. The Comores at 30 for Moroni and 31 towards Anjouan. And finally, looking at the Seychelles as well as over Mauritius, looks like there might be a slight chance of rain towards Pralin with a maximum temperature there just around 29 and the lower 30s. And that's where I leave it for the weather, but do stay tuned. Here on SABC News, there'll be more.
Yeah, if you're unhappy with his performance, you can send it an email directly to Tsietsi Manari there on the weather desk. No, our weather desk is one of the best in the country, and Tsietsi is obviously one of the best young meteorologists in the country. I wanted to ask you, Tsietsi, we got about a minute. Just tell me quickly, are you surprised that this October has been so hot, almost uncharacteristically hot? Or is it global warming?
Not at all. We saw this in our seasonal forecast we did at the beginning of the season, that it's going to get hotter and hotter, especially in spells like this of heat waves coming in different portions of the country.
Yeah.
And yes, sadly, the rainfall is also shying away. And it's a bit of a disaster for most parts as we are suffering through water crisis. Botswana already have reported that they might be running out of water a lot sooner than everybody thought. So, yeah.
Let's hope the rain comes here in the northern parts of southern Africa. All countries are crying out for the rains to come. Rain seems a little bit late, but as Tsietsi says, it's kind of par for the course for this time of the year. I think it is a little bit late, a little bit more. As you saw a little bit earlier, Alvis is sitting by now. He's feverishly working on an update at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Alvis is going to have a lot more news. See you then.
Najja muka TV kandaga nga ndi mu abaana batya babiri kinali tidi nga bali bezingira endira era bankobera ati endira dezingira abaana abo senga nalinjire luuyi mbutufu nalinja kuvuira mwawo bango mwana asooka yaida bulungi ayo nayasembayo yaidira magulu.
Uganda is struggling to enhance the health care. We have a high infant mortality because of pregnancy-related conditions.
The mission of Imaging the World is to place affordable ultrasound machines in the most rural health facilities. Philips has been involved in the project from the very beginning.
Omulala niwe iswa Livingstone Salung. Owokubiri nitenywa Wilson Kabali. Singa nalinjire luuyi ngati maze kufuna kubona kativi. Nalinja kuvuira mwawo.
Innovation and you. Philips.
This is Rights and Recourse.
This act says we are all the same, we are all equal before the law.
I have a fundamental problem with her saying that traditional leaders are recognized as the de facto owners of the land. That isn't in the Constitution, nor is it in any law.
Unpacking your legal rights and cost of action.
The Constitution starts from the point that we are one country and that we need to have a system that actually consolidates that, but also recognizes the different compositions of different communities.
With due respect to Aninka, I know she is happy that her queen in England, she's the owner of the whole land, she's not having any politics.
Chief Mokoena, we will get to some of the other issues.
You must withdraw that Aninka's Queen of England. Please, that's completely unacceptable.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays at 2 p.m. on the SABC News channel.
Media Monitor, the title says it all. Can we really afford more job losses at such a critical time in our economy? Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. It seems we don't have a famous son-in-law any longer. Levi, what do you say to this? An A-lister.
I'll leave this one to Levi. He's the romantic.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
The internet has been found to be a tool used by militant groups when recruiting members. This has forced governments to create tighter internet laws. Technology has also been used to call for social change, as was the case with the abducted Nigerian girls.
The people on social media are some of the society's most influential. If they get an issue started, you're likely to have that issue become a national issue.
And on Network, we tell you about this serious side of technology, but we have fun too with gadgets, games and cars. That's Network every Sunday at 19:30, only on SABC News.
It's 10:00 hours Central Africa time on this Wednesday, the 28th of October 2015. Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the second hour. This is Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we bring you the latest news from here and around the globe. We're broadcasting live from our Auckland Park studios, Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. But first, let's take a look at all your headlines. Sentencing is expected against the Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs. The Labour Department to release a preliminary findings into the cause of the Santon Pedestrian Bridge collapse this morning. And exactly 2 weeks after the start of the historic Fees Must Fall campaign, the academic activities are expected to resume at the epicenter of the protests at the University of the Witwatersrand. Now those are all your headlines, but first let's hear it from Kendall. Makamate was standing by to give us an update on the sports news.
Now, good morning, Elvis. I am looking forward to doing that. In fact, I want to say good morning to all of our viewers at home as well. This is what we've got in store for you in the sports. First up, SuperSport United break their 4-match drought in Port Elizabeth, beating host Chippa United 2-0 in an upset Premiership match. Did Australia try to buy the 2022 World Cup? Well, England is investigating. Defending champions New Zealand's All Blacks in training ahead of the Rugby World Cup final. Roger Federer vying for his 7th title at the Basel International race past Mikhail Kukushkin in just 55 minutes last night. And that's exactly what we've got for you in the sports later on at 10:20. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you very much, Kendall. That's all coming up, but right now let's take a look at our top story this hour. Matric examinations in the Northwest have been severely compromised. There are no examinations taking place in 17 schools in Khanyesa due to service delivery protests in the area. Learners in Kagisano Malopo are urging the Department of Public Works in the Northwest to respond to the demands of the residents. Schools in the area were disrupted last week as the community are calling for the department to complete a road between Khanyesa and Madinonyane. Now, 43 grade 12 learners at Mapoitsele village in Tahung had to be escorted to a secure place on the 11th hour after protesting residents made threats to disrupt the examinations. Northwest MEC for Education, Mapefu Matsamela, now joins us in the Maikeng studio to tell us a little bit more. MEC, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Well, good morning to you and to all the viewers.
MEC, first and foremostly, can you tell us, give us an update on the writing of examinations or matric examinations in Khanyesa? Why are there no examinations being written in these schools?
I think we had a good start on Monday because all learners who are supposed to sit for examination indeed sat and write their first paper, which was English on Monday. But we had a very serious challenge about the inner classes from grade 1 to grade 11 to all those affected areas in line with the service delivery protest. But we have been engaging almost everybody, every stakeholder, as far as this matter is concerned, so that at least we give each and every child a chance. We give each and every child an opportune moment for him or her to sit for examination, which will say to any one of them, the grade 1s will go to grade 2 next year after writing the examination. So that is where we are right now. But we believe that with this intense deliberations, with this intense discussions, at the end of the day, we will all find ourselves, and all the learners will actually sit for examinations from grade 1 to grade 11. Fortunately for the grade 12s, learners of Khononyani are enhoused somewhere in a place which education is very conducive for them to do revision and also to sit for an examination. We had 3 areas which have been affected. That was Kopela. I believe that everybody knows that for the past 3 weeks, we had a very serious situation where 2 of our schools have been touched in the Kopela area. But the learners of Noto Secondary School, it is a high school, it is a secondary in Kopela area, have been taken to a place where examinations can be conducive. We are having a situation of Bohosin Secondary School, and the Bohosin Secondary School learners also have been taken to a place where it is conducive for revision and also for writing examination, and also those ones from Khononyani. And you are speaking about more than 200 learners who are supposed to be sitting for their examination. Fortunately, there's plus minus 200 learners indeed have sat for the first paper, and they are continuing to write. Even yesterday, we were writing accounting. Those who were supposed to be writing accounting sat for that paper and they wrote. Today, we are writing Setswana, and I believe that they are well catered for and they will be writing. The problem is about these internal classes, but we believe that everybody will find himself, so that each one of these learners must be given a chance to write the examinations.
So just for clarity's sake, so all the matriculants are writing, but is the internal structures or internal classes that's a problem?
Indeed, because we didn't want this situation. We actually decided that we need to be proactive, because we have seen this situations brewing for some time. And we agreed as the Department of Education that we need to take out, in the meantime, all the grade 12 learners from those affected areas. We spoke to their parents, we spoke to the courses, and all of them agreed that we can take those learners out of those villages. So the only affected classes are the internal classes, like I've said, from grade 1 to grade 11.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's take a look at the grievances of the community. What are they protesting about?
They are protesting about the road. They want the road, and they've been saying this road has been promised to them, for if you take the years that they are referring to, it is quite a number of years as far as this road issue is concerned. So that is the issue as far as this matter is concerned. They want the road.
Mm-hmm. Now, in communities, if communities do not take their school and the education of the children seriously, why should they then go to an extent of even burning 3 schools? And why should the building of a road take precedence over education, you think?
Seriously, it is a very worrying situation that whenever we are having a situation about the service delivery, we tend to take our children and make them a bait in this regard. And all of us must take into consideration that we, as the government of the African National Congress, we are moving steadily. We don't want to be harsh to communities, because we want to continue to talk to them, make sense to them, that at least give these children a right for their education. Because I can, at my own capacity, as a custodian of education in the Northwest Province, the South African Schools Act is empowering me to actually take each and every one who is doing all these things to court and actually intervene, each one who is doing this. Because education is a right. It is not a privilege. And also, they need to take into this consideration that they are trampling on the rights of the children themselves. What if tomorrow the very same children are taking the very same community members to court for their own rights? So we don't actually want to do that. That is why I said, as the African National Congress government, we are moving steadily because we want to understand each other so that we arrive at a particular situation which will say to all of us, we are human beings, we can get angry, but at a particular moment we need to realize the facts that even if community members are having a right to protest, equally learners are having a basic right. That basic right is a right to education.
Now, that basic right that you're talking about, you still have a problem with the internal structures, grade 1 to 11. How are you going to resolve that? Because it seems now the matriculants has been resolved.
I think we are ready. We are ready for examination as the Department of Education. All schools are ready because some have already started with the examinations. And if communities where all this situation is taking place can say to us, children are going to write, since the children are theirs, we are going to make each and every learner write in the Northwest Province.
MEC, but you haven't given me the actual thing that you are going to do to ensure that those grade 1 to 11, they do right.
I've just said we are ready. We are ready for each and every learner to sit for examination.
But if the community
as much as we are continuing with the discussions and the engagements, once the community members are saying, yes, we understand what you are saying, MEC, those learners will be in a class tomorrow. They will be in a class on Friday, Monday, next week, until examination come to an end. They will write.
Will there be action taken against the parents, MEC?
I've said, as the ANC government, we want to further negotiate and continue to talk with all the stakeholders and make sense to everybody.
MEC, that's where we got to leave it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was the MEC for Education, Mapefo Matsamela, joining us in our My King Studios, MEC in the Northwest. Now, Judge Colin Lamont is expected to begin sentencing proceedings against the Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused who have been convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs in the High Court in Johannesburg. This was the first conviction against Krejcir in the country. He is on trial for 4 separate matters in South African courts. The group's sentencing was postponed earlier this month when the state asked for a postponement, and will keep you abreast of the proceedings in that court as it continues. A preliminary report on the findings of what may have caused the collapse of a temporary pedestrian bridge in Sandton north of Johannesburg earlier this month will be revealed by the Department of Labour today. 2 people were killed when the structural bridge near Grahamstown Drive off-ramp collapsed onto the vehicles on the M1 highway. 21 people were injured. Murray & Roberts, the company responsible for the construction of the pedestrian and cycle bridge, has appointed technical, engineering, legal and forensic specialists to probe the incident. This was in addition to other investigations initiated by the Department of Labour, the City of Johannesburg and the South African Police Service. Now, academic activities are set to resume at Wits University today. This is exactly 2 weeks after the Fees Must Fall protest started at the institution. On Monday, management released a 9-point plan to address students' grievances. The plan commits the university not to institute disciplinary action against students who were involved in the protest. Wits Vice-Chancellor Professor Adam Habib says the students have also committed to resuming academic programs and writing exams. Habib says they will reorganize the academic examination timetable and establish a commission with tight timeframes to assist and address the issue of outsourcing. Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande says details of how government will deal with the 2.7 billion rand shortfall for student funding in 2016 will be announced tomorrow. He was speaking during a debate in Parliament following the 0% fee increase announced by the President Jacob Zuma a week ago.
Government must have the political will to tax the rich and the wealthy to fund higher education. None of us must develop cold feet about the necessity of taxing the rich to fund our children.
The Higher Education Minister dishing out some of the solutions aimed at resolving the ongoing higher education crisis. But he says whatever solution his department and the Treasury will come up with this week will not be enough. More resources will be needed in the future.
An additional amount of 37 billion rands in 2011 rand value is required in the baseline over the 2016-2017 to 2018-2019 medium-term expenditure framework to cover the full cost of study loans for poor and working-class students.
But opposition parties were still not convinced that Nzimande was up to the task at hand. Most of them described his statement as too little, too late, while others called for his resignation.
This crisis was created by an executive that failed to act. The president failed to act, Minister Nzimande failed to act, and now we face the consequences.
The Honourable Minister must do the honourable thing and he must resign. South Africa can ill afford to continue on this slippery slope of incompetence and failure.
The big problem here, why there's no free education now, which we should have been progressing to, is because the ruling party is mismanaging our funds, they are misusing public funds, they are not doing with it what we give them to do.
The Honourable Nzimande has for the past 20 years agitated for a popular revolution. When it finally arrived, he was on the wrong side, the receiving end of trying to make it.
Clamping down on corruption, reining in tax evaders, reducing the public sector wage bill, cutting the size of the cabinet, and reducing the number of provinces from 9 to 4 were some of the suggestions made by legislators. Now all eyes will be on Thursday's announcement when the presidency and other stakeholders will be briefing the nation on the short to medium-term solutions. Manilisi Tubase, SABC News, Parliament.
Breaking news now. Thousands of Northwest University students at the Maikeng campus have been evicted from their residences following a week of violent protest. The university says acts of violence, which led to vandalism and looting, have prompted the university to take this stance. Now, this past week, several students were arrested and scores more injured during a violent confrontation with the police. Over and above the demand for 0% fee increments, students also at the Maikeng campus have called for the dissolution of the University Council, citing lack of transformation. Our SABC reporter Selo Tatai is just returned from the university campus and he joins us now in the Maikeng studios. Selo, a very good morning to you, and can you tell us what is happening at the university? Can you give us an update on exactly what happened there?
Well, good morning, Elvis. What I can tell you now is that thousands of students at the Maikeng campus of the Northwest University have been evicted and they are now stranded. Some of them, they've told us that they don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. We are talking about students as far as Swaziland, Botswana, Zambia, and many of the countries in the SADC region. So as far as things stand, those students, they are stranded and they are telling us that they do not know where they are going to sleep. The university has taken the decision to evict the students, citing acts of intimidation, vandalism, and looting. And they are saying that they are doing this to prepare for examinations, which will be held starting from the 2nd of November. But what is interesting is that the students are saying that they have not written semester tests. As a result, they do not have a semester mark, which will take them to the examinations.
How many students are affected?
We are talking about over 2,000 students which have been affected from what we have been told by the SRC. And as the situation stands now, we have received information from the SRC that they are currently at court to interdict the decision that has been taken by the university management.
Now, something that comes to mind is the end-of-year examinations. Any alternative arrangements regarding that, or is the university going to go ahead and let the students write?
We do not know any information regarding any alternative measures that have been taken by the university regarding the decision that they've taken today. But as I explained earlier on, the university, SRC, is going to interdict the decision that has been taken by the management. But it seems like the demands rather that have been put forth by students supersede the 0% fee increment. They are saying that over a number of years, they've been citing issues of lack of transformation in the university, including the including the Potchefstroom campus and the Val campus, saying that to a large extent the University Council have not come to the party and negotiate with them. Hence, they are adamant that they are going to continue with this protest action until their demands are met.
Have you managed to talk to the university management regarding the damage to property on the university?
We haven't been able to speak to the university management. What they have done is that they have released a statement which is in front of me, if I can just read it to you. They are saying that considerable damage had been done to the facilities on campus, which must now be repaired to ensure that examinations can begin on Monday, 2nd of November 2015. A decision has been taken to close the campus with immediate effect. All students will have to vacate the campus by 8 o'clock. But what we're expecting as the events unfold is to speak to the Vice-Chancellor of the Northwest University, Professor Kwadi, to tell us about any alternative measures that they have put in place to secure the safety of these students, which seems to be a talking point.
Salo, thank you so much for that update. That's our reporter in Maikeng, Salo Tatai. Now, it's time to go to your sports news with Kendall Makamate.
Well, thank you very much, Elvis, and hearty good morning to you again. Now, first half header by Kamaldina Brau saw Kaizer Chiefs making it 2 wins against Black Aces at the FNB Stadium. And SuperSport United broke a 4-game losing streak in the Absolute Premiership by claiming a 2-0 win away to Chippa United, this at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Let's take a look at the goals from both matches. United defender Clayton Daniels broke a deadlock with a header in the 41st minute. An unmarked Brocky connected in the penalty box with another Tusopala special, making it 2-0 in the 85th minute.
There's a man you cannot leave unmarked at the back post.
And at the FNB Stadium, a Black Aces defence was caught napping in the 31st minute when George Lebese produced a gorgeous cross that was headed in by Kamaldina Brau, giving Kaizer Chiefs a 1-0 win. In the second half, Black Aces came out guns blazing to keep Chiefs' goalkeeper Itumeleng Nkune busy as he made incredible saves and making sure that Chiefs got all 3 points. Now here's a summary of the results from last night. As you can see, we've just had the 2 matches in the Absolute Premiership being played, and the first one, both kicking off at 7:30 p.m. And Kaizer Chiefs 1-0 against Black Aces, and then Chippa United losing at home to SuperSport United, who would be very happy with that win. It had been 4 matches that they had not won. Now looking ahead at the matches being played before this weekend, tonight we've got Orlando Pirates against Golden Arrows, and that's at Orlando Stadium at 7:30 p.m. And then we also have Mamelodi Sundowns playing Polokwane City at the Lucas Moripe Stadium. Kick-off for both matches at 7:30 p.m. And then on Friday evening at 8 p.m. at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, Chippa United back in action against Black Aces. Now, Britain's Serious Fraud Office is looking into new information involving possible FIFA corruption, which could produce the evidence they need to start a formal investigation. Speaking to the Select Committee on Culture, Media and Sport, the director of the Fraud Office answered questions on what he was doing about FIFA, when the US and the Swiss authorities had already taken action against some officials, and the organization itself has suspended President Sepp Blatter and Executive Committee member Michel Platini. Let's take a listen.
We are still examining issues around possible money laundering. I regret I won't be able to go into detail about that, but there are several aspects to it, and some new information has come to us quite recently. We have looked at it, and at the moment I can't confirm that it went through London. Certainly it started in Sydney and it ended up in Trinidad. It appears to have ended up in Trinidad, Whether it came through London is important.
Now on to Rugby World Cup news. New Zealand's international success will count for nothing when they run out against Australia in the Rugby World Cup final at Twickenham in London on Saturday. The two sides will meet in the final for the very first time, and the winner will become the first team to lift the prestigious Webb Ellis Trophy 3 times.
It's all to play for. Rugby's most prestigious title, records galore, and a chance to rewrite the history books. Statistically, the All Blacks have been the best team in the tournament, scoring 36 tries and conceding just 4. But the Kiwis aren't too bothered about facts and figures.
The beauty of this World Cup, everything that's happened before, it means very little. It's all going to come down to 80 plus minutes on this Saturday.
For us, we're just trying to prepare as well as we can, so that we've got our preparation right leading into Saturday, so that we don't give those guys too many opportunities, because they are dangerous.
Meanwhile, World Rugby and the organisers of the 2019 tournament in Japan unveiled their logo and match dates in London. The logo emphasises unity and features the rising sun with another iconic Japanese symbol, Mount Fuji.
Japan 2019 will be groundbreaking. It will look very different. It will feel very different. It will sound very different to any Rugby World Cup we've ever had.
Japan's victory over the Springboks at this year's tournament has done much to awaken a new level of interest in the game in that country. The Brave Blossoms' win over the former champions has inspired many to take the sport seriously. The inclusion of a Japanese team in next year's expanded Super Rugby competition will also provide a huge boost ahead of the start of the 2019 edition on the 20th of September. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Right now, Germany has deported 83 more rejected asylum seekers and flew them from Munich to Kosovo's capital, Pristina, yesterday. In the first wave of accelerated deportations since the government in Berlin adopted new measures, the tighter rules, which came into effect before the previously foreseen start date of the 1st of November, aims to speed up asylum and extradition procedures for migrants from southeastern Europe. This they do in order to focus on refugees from war-torn countries such as Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan. Meanwhile, 5 men, and that's exactly why I'm telling you this story, who are racing cyclists in war-torn Syria, have the opportunity to resume their training in Berlin, Germany. Let's take a look.
They were racing cyclists in Syria, but the civil war put the brakes on any hope for competitions. Now living in Germany, these 5 men have the opportunity to resume their training in Berlin.
The idea came from these Syrian athletes. They stood here in front of this hall one morning and said they wanted to cycle, that they were racing cyclists in their homeland. So that's how it happened. The trainer made them the offer to ride here today. He also provided them with bikes. So this is an example, maybe a special example, of sports facilities for refugees.
The Berlin State Sports Federation also gave the men shoes, helmets and clothing and is working to find them a permanent trainer. Syrian refugee Tarek Al-Maka said it feels good to be back on a bicycle.
We have a great feeling. We are starting training after 2 months. We are stopping. We are going from our country from 2 months. We stopped training and we are right now we are come back to train. It's a great feeling. We want to train every day, every single day. We don't have anything right now, only training and we are studying.
The men hope the training will put them on a course to race in a world championship. Until then, the Germans and Syrians will work together, united in their love of sport.
I sure hope you enjoyed that story, and that's why we leave it with the sport. Up next, a quick break, and then we'll stay on with more news. Stay tuned.
An ancient culture carried to these shores a lifetime ago, fusing, merging, growing to transcend lines, cultures and sound, embodied in a voice that speaks to you without forgetting. Do you listen to it? Lotus FM. Share the experience.
News at 1 touches the nerve of business locally and abroad. Find out how a move in the economy affects you daily. We bring to you all stock markets information across the globe daily. We deliver the latest news and sport news of the day. Make a date with lunchtime news at 1 daily.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom here. Let's just take a quick roundup of a top story that's happening here in South Africa. Of course, Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir's sentencing proceedings are about to get underway. Him and his 5 co-accused, they've just arrived in the Gauteng, the South Gauteng High Court, that is here in Johannesburg. And I can tell you, Judge Colin Lamont, the man in the red there in the picture, is expected to begin these sentencing procedures against the 6 men. They've been convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs in the High Court. This was the first conviction, I can tell you, against Krejcir here in South Africa. He's on trial in 4 separate matters in the South African courts. The group's sentencing was postponed earlier this month when the state asked for a postponement. Now, high security around the South Gauteng High Court, as they are, it's believed that they are a high risk of escape attempts. In this case, we've seen stories of escape attempts surrounding Radovan Krejcir in recent weeks. Interesting developments. Gillian Pillay, she's there live. As soon as we have any developments in that story, I can tell you Radovan Krejcir has just walked in now, so we will be there for an update. We'll be up there for an update. Now, another story that's happening today is there's the inquiry into the bridge collapse that's also about to get underway here in Gauteng. Now, reporter Hasina Gari has been at the hearing this morning. Matters are still underway. As you can see, journalists there sitting around waiting for the inquest to get underway. Of course, 2 people died in this incident now, just almost 2 weeks ago. It is. We'll give you more detail on that story as it also develops here this morning. Now, time for us to look at another concerning factor. That's South Africa's foremost authorities on HIV/AIDS, Professor Salim Abdul Karim and Professor Krejcir Abdul Karim, are being lauded again for their continued fight against HIV/AIDS here in the country. The dynamic husband and wife team, they head up the Centre for AIDS Program Research in South Africa, based in Durban. Their work has now been recognized by the South African Medical Research Council and the United Nations organization, UNESCO, respectively.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
HIV-burdened districts in the country. It's where we find renowned South African scientist Professor Krejcir Abdul Karim, named one of 5 exceptional laureates of the prestigious 2016 L'Oréal UNESCO Women in Science Award. She's in the early stages of a study looking at the possibility of ARVs being administered by an injection every 3 months.
We now have compelling evidence that tenofovir-based tablets, if taken every day, by uninfected individuals, can protect them from acquiring HIV infection. But tablets is not for everybody. and the tablets need to be taken every day to offer protection. So because adherence is a challenge, so this is where something like a dipivirine ring, which can be used once a month, or this injectable that we're testing, so you can come in 3 or 4 times a year, potentially offering. So it's all with antiretrovirals.
Her husband, Professor Salim Abdul Karim, has been doing AIDS research now for almost 30 years. He will be honoured with the South African Medical Research Council's Platinum Lifetime Achievement Award. This is for excellence in research this year.
We know, for example, that our work is saving lives of patients who have TB and HIV. We know that we've created and developed a whole field of HIV prevention with the use of antiretrovirals. So I feel at a personal level a deep satisfaction that what we've done has made an important contribution.
Professor Krejcir Abdul Karim will receive her award in Paris in March next year, while her husband will be honoured in Cape Town on Thursday.
The job's not done. I feel I got a whole lifetime of work still to do. And so we're going to have to find out whether they can give this award again in another 30 years.
Blaine Herman, SABC News, Durban.
Now, for more on the story, we're joined in our Durban studios by Professor Salim Abdul Karim himself and his wife, Professor Krejcir Abdul Karim. They are a dynamic husband and wife team that head up the Centre for AIDS Programs Research here in South Africa. Very good morning to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Professor Salim, if I can start with you, just tell us about your research centre at the Vulindlela site, the work that you do and the steps forward that you're taking right now.
Sure. So when we were trying to understand the HIV epidemic, we thought, where would be the best place to do this research? And so when we looked at the HIV epidemic in the country, the worst affected district is the one we chose. It's about 20 to 30 minutes outside of Howick in the Natal Midlands, and we worked with the Department of Health in the province to establish a clinic and a research facility in this deep rural community. So that started back in 2001, and it really, the choice to go there was driven not just on our understanding of HIV prevalence in that community, but also because the local leadership was very keen for us to be involved. They invited us, they provided us with land, they encouraged the community to work with us, and so that's what made this particular community such a powerful one for our research. And since then, we've been undertaking a range of studies. We've provided very detailed understandings of what drives HIV in this country, and we've developed completely new ways in which HIV can be prevented and in which HIV and TB co-infection can be treated.
Professor Krejcir, if I can come to you. Now, you've been named one of the 5 exceptional laureates on the prestigious 2016 L'Oreal UNESCO Women in Science Award. How does that make you feel?
Well, clearly, it's really exciting, and it's a deep honor and privilege to have work that our team has been involved in for over 2 decades recognized in this way.
Well, fantastic. It's fantastic work that you do. And then your husband, of course, not to be left behind. You'll soon be honoured with the South African Medical Research Council's Platinum Lifetime Achievement Award. Your reaction to that, sir?
So we have a standing joke that Krejcir gets all the very prestigious international awards, and I make do with the little ones. Well, in this particular instance, the award is a very substantial one. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's being given to me by the South African Medical Research Council. And it's special for me because it's from an organization that I have worked with for many years, and I have devoted much of my time and energy to assisting and building over the last 20 to 30 years. So I think On the one hand, it's an opportunity to be recognized, but for me, more importantly, it's an opportunity to also give back to the Medical Research Council.
Professor Krejcir, the study that you're doing, and I know you're in the early stages of it, looking at the possibility of ARVs being administered by injection every 3 months. Where are you now with regards to this study? And then give us a little bit more detail about how you see this work in the fight.
So it's really important to recognize that in the past 5 years, the role of antiretrovirals in the treatment of people who have AIDS has really transformed our response to the epidemic of survival. And we've also seen the impact of ARVs in reducing mother-to-child transmission. In the past 5 years, what we've started to see is the use of antiretrovirals in uninfected people to prevent HIV infection. And one of the biggest challenges we've been experiencing were testing antiretrovirals for prevention in adults to reduce sexual transmission in the tablet form and the gel form has been adherence. So these new formulations that are less dependent on daily use or using it in relation to sex provides and opens up an opportunity to really derive the full benefits of this new idea. In terms of testing injectables, we're at a very early stage. So in drug development, you have to first establish safety, you have to establish what is the right amount of drugs to be used, how often should these drugs be used. So we're really at that stage of establishing safety and how often the drug needs to be administered to offer protection. The next stage would be, given outcomes from this stage, would be testing, does this actually work for prevention? Now, one of the bigger challenges in delivering antiretrovirals is having infrastructure to deliver these modalities and new interventions, and to have the possibility of a drug that can be administered 3 or 4 times a year against the backdrop of weak healthcare delivery systems and all the other demands on healthcare delivery systems creates an opportunity for deriving public health benefits, but at the same time doing it within constraints of delivering current healthcare delivery in our setting. So it's quite a what we would call a game changer if all things follow through and it goes the next logical steps of development.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Krejcir Abdul Karim and Professor Salim Abdul Karim, for the excellent work that you do, coming to you live from our studios in Durban, talking about their work. Now, time for us to move on and take a look at some of the other news making headlines here on the African continent. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has officially won his second 5-year term with nearly 84% of the vote. Ouattara won in all of the 17 regions. The president's leadership is believed to have assisted in building up the West African nation's economy following the 2011 civil war there. Ivory Coast was commended by the international community for their peaceful election process. Meanwhile, opposition leaders in the Congo Republic yesterday called for government to retract a planned constitutional amendment. Yesterday, government announced that more than 92% of people voted in favor of the controversial referendum. This change allows President Denis Sassou Nguesso to extend his 3-decade-long rule. At least 7 people were killed and 15 others wounded when the latest surge of violent clashes broke out in Burundi this week. Yesterday, security forces battled against gunmen in the capital, Bujumbura. Attacks have included gunmen firing rocket-propelled grenades and machine guns on security forces. Burundi has seen a rise in unrest following President Pierre Nkurunziza's bid to win a 3rd term in office there. Now, it's been nearly 3 years since conflicts in the south and north of the Kivu provinces in the Democratic Republic of the Congo reached a critical point when the Congolese army opened a military campaign against the M23 rebel group in the eastern parts of the country. The 19-month rebellion ended in November of 2013, but many armed forces still remain there. Soldiers converted some schools into military bases using barracks for weapons and ammunition storage. Children became increasingly under threat. Today, the threat still remains. Teachers and parents fear that the children will be kidnapped, raped, or even recruited as soldiers or for forced labor. Some schools are still inactive as classrooms are completely destroyed. Now, Human Rights Watch today released an extensive report taking a deeper look at schools being used for military purposes and the recruitment of child soldiers. But to tell us a little bit more about this, we're joined on the line from Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of the Congo by Human Rights Watch representative Ida Soya. Very good morning to you, Ida. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, conflict in the north is ongoing. It seems to have died down somewhat to previous years. Why are schools then still under threat in this region now?
So even though the M23 rebellion has been defeated, there's still dozens of armed groups that are active in eastern Congo, including the ADF, the Allied Democratic Forces, a Ugandan-led group operating in the northern part of North Kivu, Matric, the FDLR, Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, Rwandan rebel group, and numerous other Mai militias. And these groups continue to attack civilians, kill, rape, and also recruit children to serve as soldiers or sex slaves within their groups. And the Congolese army is still carrying out military operations against many of these groups, and the soldiers of the army have also been responsible for serious abuses, including occupation of schools, as we document in this report.
What about children now being recruited for children being recruited as soldiers there in the region? Is that still happening?
So in the past, the recruitment of children by the Congolese army was a serious problem. It was widespread within the army as numerous rebel groups were integrated into the army. But in recent years, the government has made serious progress, and they adopted an action plan in 2012 to end the use of children within the Congolese armed forces. And since then, recruitment has really gone down to almost none by the soldiers officially in the army. But we still have a big problem with armed groups continuing to recruit and use child soldiers. And the Congolese government has not yet taken enough steps to stop the use of schools and occupation of schools for military purposes during these conflicts.
We're seeing a picture right now of classrooms being in total state of disrepair. It looks like a bomb has gone off in some of them. What is being done to rebuild the classrooms and rebuild these abandoned schools?
So when these schools have been used for military purposes, in some cases the soldiers are just there for a night, sleeping in the school as a temporary barracks. But in other cases, they occupy the school for a week or a month or even longer. And during that time, first, children miss out on their education. They're not able to come to school. And it also poses serious risk to children when they come back. Sometimes there's still unused ammunition or weapons, other military equipment that's abandoned at the school and could cause security problems. And then the soldiers also often use the wooden desks, the walls, the benches of the school for fireworks. They loot everything that's there. They take the tin sheeting. So it's really, in Congo where already it's very difficult for parents to find the resources, scrape together the money to send their students to school. Now, on top of this, after military occupation and schools are destroyed, it's even more difficult for children to receive quality education. There are some efforts, and there are a number of organizations working in eastern Congo to try to rebuild schools and ensure that kids have access and that there are alternatives when the schools are occupied, but there's much more that needs to be done.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. On the line there from Kinshasa, that's Ida Soya. She's a Human Rights Watch representative in that country. Now, Burundi refugee children continue with their struggle to get education in the DRC. The school-going age children are caught in a rift between hesitant parents and the Congolese government authorities who disagree on the issue of them leaving the campgrounds to attend classes at local schools. The children have sought refuge along with their families at the Lusenda camp in the eastern DRC due to political unrest in neighboring Burundi.
To date, it's estimated that over 13,000 Burundian civilians are seeking refuge in this camp in neighboring DRC, many of which are children. Fearing for their lives back home, thousands of Burundian families fled their politically troubled country. This after the crisis that started in April when President Pierre Nkurunziza announced he would seek a third term in office. The Congolese government and relief workers are working around the clock to help meet their needs. However, some Burundians are not entirely happy with the refugee program, saying little is being done to ensure children continue with their studies while in the country.
What stops me from going to local schools outside the camp is that the Congolese children learn in Swahili and I do not speak the language because I grew up in Burundi. In Burundi we speak Kirundi in schools. It will be hard for me to learn Swahili because I don't understand anything.
Children attending local schools have access to good facilities compared to those at the refugee camps. Back in Burundi, the government previously ruled out any negotiation about the president's new 5-year term, saying he will serve a full term before any new election. Western donors such as the European Union have already suspended some aid and warned of more action against the country if it does not resolve the crisis.
Now, the India-Africa Summit is currently underway in New Delhi and 40 African leaders are expected to be attending. Although this highlights India's business sector, the country is more commonly known for leisure travel. India is one of the oldest civilizations on the planet and is often the go-to place for peace and tranquility, but also to experience a different culture, language, food and dance. Now, today we take a look at what this country has to offer as a travelling destination for all of us here on the continent. Joining me in studio is the Managing Director of Dash Travel, Zenobia Moolman. Very good morning to you, Zenobia. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Before we get to the do's and don'ts of travelling to India, let's quickly discuss South Africa's new visa amendments. Can you tell us what the changes are and does it make it any easier to travel to and from South Africa?
It does for foreigners coming to South Africa. They don't have to go to actual commissions in their countries anymore. They can now apply for the visa via post or through one of the centres and then have the biometrics done in South Africa upon arrival. It is going to be a while for it to actually come into play, but it's going to be much better. For South Africans travelling, we still have the unabridged birth certificate at the moment, but passports will now be printed with both parents' names in the passports to make it easier. And school teachers can also now, for school tours, write a letter for children to go when they travel without their parents.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
So it is much better, yes.
Let's shift our focus to India, which is really what we want to talk about today. There's lots of South Africans in India right now. The president's there. 40 other heads of states are there, not only for travel but for business as well. What's the best time of the year to go to India?
The best time is in winter, which is from October through to March. Their summer starts in June, and then we also have monsoon season until October. And it's extremely hot, so definitely October to March.
That's a beautiful, colourful country, as we see some of the pictures. Beautiful architecture, beautiful history, fantastic history, really. What are some of the highlights that people should be on the lookout for there?
Most South Africans, the first time they travel is they do the Golden Triangle tour. They start in Delhi, then they go to Agra, where the Taj Mahal is. And then they do Jaipur, which is the pink city, and then from there back. So that's really the main one. You can also add an extra day and go and see tigers that still live in the wild. That's the main thing. But for spiritual destinations, there's so many others.
I wanted to ask you about the many different religions and cultures in the country, what people should be on the lookout for. We saw a story recently in the news where an Australian man was attacked because he had a tattoo of a Hindu god on his leg, and they nearly attacked him in the country because they saw it as disrespectful.
Yes.
Are these the kinds of pitfalls that people should be on the lookout for?
They should be. They must just be respectful, as always, of culture and of religion. That is always the main important thing. And people tend to do that without thinking about it. So India is really safe. The people are very friendly. They're very helpful. There's only one aspect that is a little bit dangerous, that can be dangerous, which is Kashmir, which is on the border of Pakistan.
Pakistan, yes.
So that can be, but the conflict comes and goes. It hasn't been going for 8 years. So at the moment it's fine. But yes, just be careful. Don't walk alone. Don't do stupid things. Don't.
Well, that's pretty much the same everywhere in the world, is that you have to be aware in today's world of your surroundings at all times and where you can and cannot go. But what are some of the, if there was one tip with regards to paperwork or a safety tip that people should be aware of that you don't necessarily think about when traveling to a place of spirituality such as India?
Don't think that, even though Christianity is very big, that's not really what India is about. It's about the Hinduism, the various caste systems. So you have to respect that. You have to talk to people respectfully when it comes to that and know that what you're talking about. And don't antagonize because people don't believe in the same thing that you do. And just don't walk alone. Don't travel on your own. Get somebody that knows where you're going to take you in the safe areas.
Probably don't drive on the roads would be some
Not
good.
even the trains, please.
Not even the trains. Now, I wanted to ask you, we always hear about people getting sick in India and food and water being a little bit dodgy. Yes. With regards to eating and drinking, what should you do? And also, if you're going to take medication with you, what would that be?
You can take, we call it the travel curse, which is normally lasts for 3 days. If you have fresh bottled water and you don't eat from the street, you will be fine. But also, don't eat salad that's been washed in water or your fruit.
Well, don't put the ice blocks in your drink, as some people do.
Don't brush your teeth with tap water because you're going to get sick, and you're going to get sick for 3 days. So take some Imodium if you can, which might help, some anti-nausea tablets. But it has to get out your system, and it takes about 3 days. So don't travel in those 3 days.
Well, Zenobia, thank you very much for joining us and giving us a heads up there on what it takes to travel to this beautiful, beautiful country. India is certainly one of the most colourful places to visit around the world. Of course, right now, the Indo-Africa Summit is taking place there. Our president is there, and we'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the day and the rest of the week. What is happening? Well, what comes out of the Indo-Africa Summit? We've heard the Indian president says that they really want to become a trading partner to the entire continent. Zenobia, thank you very much for joining us and telling us what to do and what not to do. Do not put ice blocks in your drink in India. Do not brush your teeth with tap water. You might regret that. Well, time for us to take a short break. We'll be back at the top of the next hour with a complete news update. Don't go away.
The road to greatness is not an easy one. It's rough, tough, and full of barriers. And there's only one way to master it. Never, ever stop. Dauntless. The all-new Audi Q7.
Morning Live sets the agenda for the day. We bring you the latest local and international news. We are on the ball with all your sports activities and results. We give you the latest business update.
We bring you the latest weather every time.
Watch Morning Live every weekday morning at 6 o'clock, bringing you everything you need to know before you go. Shap shap, tada.
Makamelo Sekhuntse, one strong woman who said no to hunger. She never allowed circumstances to pull her down. At daybreak, she is up and running in the streets of Johannesburg to make her living. After 12 hours of hard work, she goes back home being able to put food on the table. Join me, Bulemo Lebatsi, on your show about those who take on and conquer life challenges every Saturday at 5:30.
$100 Central Africa time on this Wednesday, the 28th of October 2015. Jumbo Africa, and welcome to the final hour. This is Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studios, Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. But first, let's take a look at all your news headlines. Sentencing underway against the Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs. The Labour Department to release a preliminary finding into the cause of the Sandton Pedestrian Bridge collapse. And exactly 2 weeks after the start of the historic Fees Must Fall campaign, academic activities are expected to resume at the epicenter of the protests at the University of the Witwatersrand. Those are all your headlines. But right now, let's first hear from Kendall Makamata what he has in store for you in your sports news. A very good morning to you once again.
Good morning, Elvis. We've got quite a lot in sports. In fact, starting with, this is what we've got for you in sports at 11:30 this morning. SuperSport United break their 4-match drought in Port Elizabeth, beating host Chippa United 2-0 in an Absa Premiership match. Did Australia try to buy the 2022 World Cup? Well, England is investigating. And defending champions, New Zealand's All Blacks in training ahead of the Rugby World Cup final. Roger Federer vying for his 7th title at the Basel International race past Mikhail Kukushkin in just 55 minutes last night. And that, in a nutshell, is exactly what we've got for you in the sports. Make sure you're around for 11:30. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. That's all coming up later, but right now, your top story. Judge Colin Lamont is expected to begin sentencing proceedings against Czech fugitive Radovan Krejcir and his 5 co-accused who have been convicted of attempted murder, kidnapping and dealing in drugs in the High Court in Johannesburg. Let us see what is happening in court right now.
Clothes available, or I want to order that the clothes may be
No clothes, nothing is to be handed to the accused otherwise than at the prison. It's a security issue. I can't control it. The police can't control it. The prisons department must control what articles the accused receive at the prison. Nothing is to be exchanged to them outside the prison. It's a straightforward security issue. Right, so he will get nothing here. Whatever his people want to give him, they will give him by arrangement with the prisons department at the prison. And if there is no control over, or no proper control over what they receive at the prison, then I will no doubt receive an address in due course as to what orders I must make against the prisons department to ensure proper control. Because I don't want accidental things to happen. You know, we had accidentally a knife was taken into the cell at Palm Ridge. We don't want any accidents like that. So nothing is to be given to the accused. So the accused may be taken back downstairs, and the matter will stand adjourned until 11:30.
Lord, just before the court adjourns, I submit my learned friend is having the events out of 10. Once the state proves previous convictions, it's for the accused to begin leading evidence if they want to lead any evidence. I can't present.
Mr. Mashiani, what has this got to do with the application of 2 and 5?
No, it has.
So then in due course you'll make whatever submissions you want.
Yes.
Right, so the accused can be taken down to the cells. Right, you may go.
Well, as you heard there, the accused will be taken down to the cells, and we'll follow up on that story a little bit later, so stay tuned. Now, a preliminary report on the findings of what may have caused the collapse of a temporary pedestrian bridge in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, earlier this month will be revealed by the Department of Labour. Let us now cross to our reporter Hasina Gori, who's giving us the latest there. Very good morning to you once again, Hasina.
Good morning. We're here inside the Department of Labour, where we just heard from the Director General, the Acting Director General, on what their preliminary report has revealed so far. What we know so far is that there's going to be a full-on investigation into what caused the bridge to collapse. It will take about 6 months, and it's going to look at various different stakeholders who might be held responsible for the collapse of that bridge.
Now, let me just understand from you, so is that done for the day? Is that the preliminary report? Has that been released now?
Yes, the report was released at about 10:30 this morning. We just come out of that session with the Department of Labour, and what we were told really is that there's going to be a full investigation, a full inquiry into what caused the temporary structure to collapse on the oncoming traffic, on the Grahamstown highway.
And when can we expect a final report then?
The final report is expected at least 6 months it should take, but it could take longer than that. They said that they're going to look into what exactly they might need during the investigation, and they could add more time to that. Also, it might not be made public. We were told that we would have to apply to gain access to that information once it is completed.
Hasina, thank you so much for that update there. That was Hasina Gori from Pretoria. Now, matric examinations in the northwest have been severely compromised. There are no examinations taking place in schools in Ganyesa due to service delivery protest in that area. Learners in Krejcir and Malopo are urging the Department of Public Works in the northwest to respond to the demands of the residents. Schools in the area were disrupted last week as the community are calling for the department to complete a road between Ganyesa and Madinyonyane. Now, earlier we spoke to the Northwest MEC for Education, Mapefo Matsamela.
We have 3 areas which have been affected. That was Kopela. I believe that everybody knows that for the past 3 weeks we had a very serious situation where 2 of our schools have been touched in the Kopela area. But the learners of Noto Secondary School, it is a high school, it is a secondary in Kopela area, have been taken to a place where examinations can be conducive. We are having a situation of Bohosin Secondary School, and Bohosin Secondary School learners also have been taken to a place where it is conducive for revision and also for writing examination, and also those ones from Khononyane. And you are speaking about more than 200 learners who are supposed to be sitting for their examination. Fortunately, there's plus minus 200 learners indeed have sat for the first paper, and they are continuing to write. Even yesterday, we were writing accounting. Those who were supposed to be writing accounting sat for that paper and they wrote. Today, we are writing Setswana, and I believe that they are well catered for and they will be writing. The problem is about these internal classes, but we believe that everybody will find himself, so that each one of these learners must be given a chance to write the examinations. But at a particular moment, we need to realize the facts that even if community members are having a right to protest, equally learners are having a basic right. That basic right is a right to education. We are ready for each and every learner to sit for examination.
But if the community
as
has
much
not...
as we are continuing with the discussions and the engagements, once the community members are saying, yes, we understand what you are saying, MEC, those learners will be in a class tomorrow. They will be in a class on Friday, Monday, next week, until examination come to an end. They will write.
The MEC indicating there that the matriculants will write. There's still a problem, though, with the grade 1 to 11 students. Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande says that details of how government will deal with the 2.7 billion rand shortfall for student funding in 2016 will be announced tomorrow. He was speaking during a debate in Parliament following the 0% fee increase announced by the President Jacob Zuma a week ago.
Government must have the political will to tax the rich and the wealthy to fund higher education. None of us must develop cold feet about the necessity of taxing the rich to fund our children.
The Higher Education Minister dishing out some of the solutions aimed at resolving the ongoing higher education crisis. But he says whatever solution his department and the Treasury will come up with this week will not be enough. More resources will be needed in the future.
An additional amount of 37 billion rands in 2011 rand value is required in the baseline over the 2016-2017 to 2018-2019 medium-term expenditure framework to cover the full cost of study loans for poor and working-class students.
But opposition parties were still not convinced that Nzimande was up to the task at hand. Most of them described his statement as too little, too late, while others called for his resignation.
This crisis was created by an executive that failed to act. The president failed to act, Minister Nzimande failed to act, and now we face the consequences.
The Honourable Minister must do the honourable thing and he must resign. South Africa can ill afford to continue on this slippery slope of incompetence and failure.
The big problem here, why there's no free education now, which we should have been progressing to, is because the ruling party is mismanaging our funds, they are misusing public funds, they are not doing with it what we give them to do.
The Honourable Nzimande has for the past 20 years agitated for a popular revolution. When it finally arrived, he was on the wrong side, the receiving end of trying to make it.
Clamping down on corruption, reining in tax evaders, reducing the public sector wage bill, cutting the size of the cabinet, and reducing the number of provinces from 9 to 4 were some of the suggestions made by legislators. Now all eyes will be on Thursday's announcement, when the presidency and other stakeholders will be briefing the nation on the short to medium-term solutions. Manilisi Tubase, SABC News, Parliament.
Economic freedom fighters, members and supporters marched through the Johannesburg CBD and Sandton yesterday. They are demanding improved minimum wages across all sectors.
Over 20,000 EFF supporters bringing the CBD to a halt.
The noise is absolutely deafening, and if you can see behind me, it is just a sea of red here in the Johannesburg CBD.
Their first stop was at the Reserve Bank, where they handed over a memorandum of demands.
I am accepting this memorandum on behalf of the governors of the South African Reserve Bank.
Then, at the Chamber of Mines, the EFF's leader demanded that party members remain disciplined.
And I don't understand why some of you are actually in front of us, because we must march together. We don't want a problem, comrades, where police accuse you of having done a wrong thing.
Malema also called on mine bosses to share their profits with their workers.
We want the mines of South Africa to commit a certain percentage of their profit towards funding of a free education. Free education is not only the responsibility of government, the private sector must also play a role.
The marchers then proceeded to Sandton, where they took their petitions to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. EFF supporters gathered outside the Johannesburg Stock Exchange here in Sandton say while they come from different generations, economic liberation is the common cause which binds them together.
From 94, corruption is over the limit. We cannot deal about this corruption.
We trust EFF is going to deliver jobs. Jobs are for the youth, and ANC is managing that, but the youth isn't working.
The EFF's memoranda is urging the country's financial institutions to meet the marchers' demands immediately. Tumalo Muhlaudi, SABC News, Sandton.
The International Criminal Court has called on India to arrest and hand over Sudanese President Omar Hassan al-Bashir, who was wanted on genocide charges. The 71-year-old president is expected to arrive in New Delhi today to attend the summit aimed at boosting trade and investment between the two regions. Bashir is accused of masterminding genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes in his campaign to crush a revolt in Sudan's western Darfur region. The Hague-based tribunal issued warrants for his arrest in 2009 and 2010. This is not the first time the ICC has asked a foreign government to arrest and hand over Bashir. South Africa was criticized in June for allowing Bashir to leave the African Union summit, defying a ruling by its own court ordering his detention. Sudan has previously accused the ICC of being a political tool to target African leaders. Now that's where we got to leave it with your news. Eben is standing by with your regional update.
Yeah, thank you very much. Update time for us to go around the country and see what is happening, what are the stories that are happening in all of our regions. As you know, SABC News, we have the biggest footprint here in South Africa. Now, the festive season is one of the busiest and most hectic periods of the year. It is that time where people take a break from their hectic schedules to go on holiday in various parts of the country and the world. Now, various tourist attraction sites have become the center of attention. And the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency is aiming to make travelling and visitation to the province accessible and enjoyable. Later this week, they'll be joining their counterparts from various countries at the World Tourism Market Symposium to be held in London to sell the province and their products. But they have thus far moved a step ahead. They recently launched a festive season campaign aimed at encouraging domestic tourists to visit Mpumalanga. To outline their plans and how they will lure visitors and ensure their safety. Well, we joined in Mbombela studio in Mpumalanga by the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency Head of Tourism, Mr. Kolani Mtetwa. Very good morning to you, Mr. Mtetwa. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you, Eben, and good morning to your viewers at home.
Now, the province is world-renowned as a tourist destination, probably the second most popular one in Southern Africa. What prompted you to move into the domestic market in this case?
Eben, domestic tourism markets are the bread and butter of the tourism industry in South Africa. So for us as Mpumalanga, it becomes very, very important that we spend most of our marketing efforts attracting the domestic travelers so that they come and visit some of our beautiful attractions that we have in this province.
With the rand being slightly under pressure, do you expect more people to be travelling locally, and do you expect Mpumalanga to be one of the standout locations for them to visit then?
Definitely, that's the case. The performance of the rand as it is at the moment, while it gives opportunities to most of the European visitors to come to visit South Africa and Mpumalanga in particular because of the exchange rate. As you will know that the rand, the way it is now, if you are having a pound coming from the UK or those type of areas, it becomes cheaper for you to visit South Africa and Mpumalanga at large. But also in the domestic front, we also not forgetting that the majority of our people during the festive season, particularly those who come out of the areas like Gauteng, Western Cape and other provinces, they normally come back home to visit friends and relatives. So for us, it becomes very opportune that we then encourage them when they are coming back home to also take a short left and visit some of the many tourism offerings that we have.
On the international front, are you relieved with the amendments we've seen to the visa regulations here in South Africa?
Definitely. The relief that were announced just a few days ago by the interministerial team on the visa regulations, it comes as a huge relief for us as we prepare to go to the World Travel Market in London early November, because that then encourages some of the people who would have loved to come to South Africa to then continue their preparations to visit us during this time.
Let's quickly move to the domestic market. Just quickly give us a little detail about the campaign itself. How are you running the campaign nationally at the moment?
We have launched the campaign even on Monday, this past Monday, the 26th of October. And they will be using a number of platforms, including your social media, which is very, very key for us. As you know, that most of the people are in that space of utilizing social media, your Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But also, we are not overlooking the other traditional methods of advertising, where we will be putting a number of advertisements on your traditional media, like your radio and print advertising, but also using our website to load the packages, so that people who want to visit the province, they can then log on to our website, which is mpumalanga.com, to find out about the affordable packages that are on offer there.
Tell us a little bit. We know about the Kruger Park, of course, everybody knows globally, but tell us about some of the other attractions that South Africans need to know about what's in Mpumalanga. It's such a beautiful province, isn't it?
It is definitely. For scenic beauty, we've got some of the wonderful attractions that you may not find anywhere else in the world. One of the attractions is just on the backdrop, just behind me here, which is the beautiful image of the 3 rondavels that people can visit around the Panorama Route. We also have other areas like the God's Window, which recently won an award as the best attraction that you can find in the country. We also have some of the very popular routes like your Genesis route, which traces the origin of life that people can explore. We also have other activities that are adventure activities. For those who are looking for pampering, we've got a number of spas that people can visit, but also we've got some of the descending attractions, including our many waterfalls that we have.
I want to ask you about safety. One can never conclude such a discussion without safety. We've seen some attacks in the province in recent times on tourists. What kind of interventions are you putting in place to guarantee the safety of visitors there?
It's a critical point. The issue of tourism safety is one of the key areas that we are working on hardly in partnership with the tourism industry. There is a strategy that the Department of Environment Affairs and Tourism in the province, in conjunction with us, are putting together to ensure that the tourists, as they visit our province, they are safe and they live as informal ambassadors. So there's also a drive that we are doing with the private sector to ensure that also on the roads, there's been incidences of corruption by some of the traffic officials where they concoct bribes from some of the motorists, particularly those coming from outside the country. So we've got a program that we are currently unrolling to make sure that we keep that scourge, and then we do training. We also involve all the parties that are also forming part of the stakeholders that we're discussing with in terms of tourism safety.
And what's your message in conclusion to South Africans and people in Southern Africa and the rest of the continent who are watching, for that matter, about Mpumalanga?
You have correctly mentioned that Krejcir National Park is one of the key icons that is well known as being in Mpumalanga. And the message I want to leave with the viewers out there is to say Mpumalanga tourism is way beyond the Krejcir National Park, which means that as people come to the Krejcir National Park, let them explore the many attractions that we have, the many tourism offerings that we have. We say Mpumalanga tourism is way beyond what they only know to be the Krejcir National Park.
Thank you very much for joining us. That is Mr. Xolani Mthethwa. He's the head of tourism with the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency here in South Africa. Of course, the eastern parts of the northern part of South Africa is really very beautiful. You should make a point of putting it on the bucket list, I would think. Now we move on elsewhere. Let's go to the Northern Cape. Transnet has parted, Free State really, with the Bloemfontein company to train, equip and support young entrepreneurs. The partnership was launched 4 years ago and has grown into an annual event. It's now spreading to different parts of the country. For the first time, the Transnet Young Entrepreneurs Conference and Expo will be hosted in Kimberley to support those already in business and young people who are thinking of starting businesses. Joining us from our Kimberley studios to talk a little bit more about this is the founder and organizer, Matefo Morakeng. A very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and a very good morning to you and your viewers.
What an interesting project, and what an interesting part of the country. Tell us about what made you decide to approach Transnet with this concept.
Okay, because this initiative has been happening for the past 3 years since we started it in Bloemfontein, then we knew of Transnet Enterprise Development, and we approached them and told them what we are doing, the initiative, and we also told them about the vision, what is the outlook, and for some reason Transnet actually felt, you know what, this is one of the things that we would like to get involved in, hence they got involved with us in Bloemfontein. Then flowing from Bloemfontein, as a result of that, we then discussed with them to say, you know what, we would also like to explore other provinces, and we have a neighboring province, which is the Northern Cape. We would also like to spread this initiative to such places because, as you know, they are sort of like lesser known provinces outside Johannesburg, which is Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. So we felt, you know what, let's start Free State, then do Northern Cape, and then maybe possibly with funding, we can also move on to other provinces like the Northwest. And also, if I may add, that also our interest in Northern Cape also came as a result of young people in Northern Cape requesting us and wanting to find out whether are we going to have a similar initiative in their province. Hence, we are here today.
Tell us about the successes of this project, and tell us about how many young entrepreneurs now have an opportunity because of this.
Okay. As a result of this initiative, I'll especially refer to Free State, we have had young entrepreneurs that have gone on and started their businesses. We have some now that have become exclusive distributors of like a very popular energy drink. We have some that have gone on and started their own businesses, because what happens is most of the time when they come, they don't really know what is it that they have to do in order to start running their businesses. So they come, they listen, and they went and implemented what they had from the conference. So they were able to start their business. We have a guy, his name is Lehlo Nolo. Lehlo Nolo was in the process of trying to figure out what kind of business he would like to run. Then, after attending our event in Bloemfontein, he went and started a jumping castle business, and is actually doing quite well. And he is forever giving us continuous feedback to say, "This is what I'm doing. These are the plans," and you know, things like that. So for us, such things encourage us, because then we are able to see that whatever it is that they get from the conference, they are able to go back and implement.
Now, young people in South Africa are faced with lots of challenges. What are the challenges that young entrepreneurs are faced with? And what are the things that make young entrepreneurs fail?
You know, things that are challenges, let's start with the challenges. Some of the most important challenges, having worked with young entrepreneurs for a very long time, is a question of, most of the time, they do not know where to go. Then if they get people that are able to guide them to say, if you need, say, funding, this is where you go. If you need mentorship, this is where you go. This is how you approach it. Then such similar things like that are actually able to assist them. But also in terms of trying to assist them, what we do is we guide them in terms of if they are able to say, in terms of speakers that come to our initiatives, we are able to connect with them so that they can even become their mentors.
That's fantastic. Now, tell us a little bit about the summit itself. It's a 2-day summit. What are some of the highlights and what are you expecting to happen during the 2-day summit?
Okay, this 2-day summit, we actually now, it started today and it ends tomorrow. We have already now about 250 young entrepreneurs from Kimberley that are attending. And we have incredible speakers like Mr. Ashley van der Berg, who is the CEO of Rail to Rail. He is one of the suppliers for Transnet, so he'll be speaking to them. And we also tomorrow will be having representatives from the National Empowerment Fund, Mr. Lehlonolo Mohlabi, who will be talking to them about issues related to funding, to say, when you have a business plan, now where do you go with the business plan? Then also the highlight, especially for tomorrow, is we will also be having the director for youth unit in the Department of Small Business, Mr. Vijay Vala. So we are actually very much looking forward to hearing what they have to say to young people.
And tell us about the attendance at the summit. How many people are you expecting there, and the reaction of the community to the work that you guys are doing?
Okay. Already, as we speak, the conference is underway, and we already now have 250 young people that are in attendance, which for us, because that's the maximum capacity that we can cater for, so for us is sort of like, is a fully is a sold out, fully booked event, although it's free. So for now they are very excited because they have been taught already how to market their businesses on social media, how to do business with Transnet already. So far, the response that we are getting from them is very, very positive, because even when you look at the social media, they are busy now tweeting and hashtagging Transnet YECE. So it's just nice and vibey at the conference venue.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's the founder and organizer, Matefo Morakeng. She came to us live from Kimberley. You saw the big hole there behind her. Now she's talking about the Transnet Young Entrepreneurs Conference and Expo. It's happening today and tomorrow in Kimberley. If you are around there, go give it a look. It's free of charge, she tells me. Well, time for us to take a break. Kendall Makamate, he's here. He's standing by with a complete sports roundup this morning. See you then.
Catch! Point! Set!
Get behind Rugby World Cup 2015 on SABC.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamati and I've got your sports and newsroom. Now, our top story for this hour is that the first half header by Kamaldina Brau saw Kaizer Chiefs making it 2 wins against Black Aces at the FNB Stadium. And SuperSport United broke a 4-game losing streak in the Absolute Premiership by claiming a 2-0 win away to Cheaper United at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Let's take a look at the goals from both matches. First up, SuperSport United defender Clayton Daniels broke the deadlock with a header in the 41st minute.
He's got the goal.
And then an unmarked Brockie connected in the penalty box with another Tusopala special, making it 2-0 in the 85th minute.
There's a man you cannot leave unmarked at the back post.
And at the FNB Stadium, Black Aces defence was caught napping in the 31st minute when George Lebesi produced a gorgeous cross that was headed in by Kamaldina Brau.
Open the scoring and a Brau, who's hardly featured in this match.
And in the second half, Black Aces came out guns blazing to keep Chiefs' goalkeeper Kune busy as he made incredible saves, making sure that Chiefs got all 3 points. Now, post the match, the winning coach was asked about the upcoming derby match against Orlando Pirates, his first as coach.
We have to start putting on the Saturday cap now. We are done with Tuesday. We'll go back, have post-match meal. After the post-match meal, start thinking about the next match. And then we'll start taking from there. We take one at a time. We leave for now. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Fighting words there. Now, here's a summary of the results from last night. FNB Stadium, both matches kicking off at 7:30, by the way. Kaizer Chiefs 1-0 against Black Aces. And then Cheaper United, they lose 2-0 against SuperSport United. A very welcome win for SuperSport as they'd had 4 matches in a row without getting a win. Now, we're looking at the matches ahead of the weekend. Tonight, Orlando Pirates are up against Golden Arrows. This is at Orlando Stadium. And then Mamelodi Sundowns, they play Polokwane City at Lucas Moripe. Friday night, Cheaper United against Black Aces. Black Aces are currently top in the league. That match will be at Nelson Mandela Bay, 8 p.m. Now, in other sports news, Britain's Serious Fraud Office is looking into new information involving possible FIFA corruption, which could produce the evidence they need to start a formal investigation. Speaking to the Select Committee on Culture, Media and Sport, the director of the Fraud Office answered questions on what he was doing about FIFA, when the US and Swiss authorities had already taken action against some officials and the organization itself had suspended President Sepp Blatter and Executive Committee member Michel Platini. This is what he said.
We are still examining issues around possible money laundering. I regret I won't be able to go into detail about that, but there are several aspects to it, and some new information has come to us quite recently. We have looked at it, and at the moment I can't confirm that it went through London. Certainly it started in Sydney and it ended up in Trinidad. It appears to have ended up in Trinidad. Whether it came through London is important.
Rugby news: New Zealand's international success will count for nothing when they run out against Australia in the Rugby World Cup final at Twickenham in London on Saturday. The two sides will meet in the final for the first time, and the winner will become the first team to lift the prestigious Webb Ellis Trophy 3 times.
It's all to play for. Rugby's most prestigious title, records galore, and a chance to rewrite the history books. Statistically, the All Blacks have been the best team in the tournament, scoring 36 tries and conceding just 4. But the Kiwis aren't too bothered about facts and figures.
The beauty of this World Cup, everything that's happened before, it means very little. It's all going to come down to 80+ minutes on this Saturday.
For us, we're just trying to prepare as well as we can, so that we've got our preparation right leading into Saturday, so that we don't give those guys too many opportunities, because they are dangerous.
Meanwhile, World Rugby and the organisers of the 2019 tournament in Japan unveiled their logo and match dates in London. The logo emphasises unity and features the rising sun with another iconic Japanese symbol, Mount Fuji.
Japan 2019 will be groundbreaking. It will look very different. It will feel very different. It will sound very different to any Rugby World Cup we've ever had.
Japan's victory over the Springboks at this year's tournament has done much to awaken a new level of interest in the game in that country. The Brave Blossoms' win over the former champions has inspired many to take the sport seriously. The inclusion of a Japanese team in next year's expanded Super Rugby competition will also provide a huge boost ahead of the start of the 2019 edition on the 20th of September. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Now, on another story, Germany has deported 83 more rejected asylum seekers and flew them from Munich to Kosovo's capital, Pristina, yesterday, in the first wave of accelerated deportations since the government in Berlin adopted new measures. The tighter rules, which came into effect before the previously foreseen start date of the 1st of November, aims to speed up asylum and extradition procedures for migrants from southern Eastern Europe. This they do in order to focus on refugees from war-torn countries such as Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because of this part. Meanwhile, 5 men who are racing cyclists in war-torn Syria have the opportunity to resume their training in Berlin, Germany. Let's take a look.
They were racing cyclists in Syria, but the civil war put the brakes on any hope for competitions. Now living in Germany, these 5 men have the opportunity to resume their training in Berlin.
The idea came from these Syrian athletes. They stood here in front of this hall one morning and said they wanted to cycle, that they were racing cyclists in their homeland. So that's how it happened. The trainer made them the offer to ride here today. He also provided them with bikes. So this is an example, maybe a special example, of sports facilities for refugees.
The Berlin State Sports Federation also gave the men shoes, helmets, and clothing and is working to find them a permanent trainer. Syrian refugee Tarek Al-Maka said it feels good to be back on a bicycle.
We have a great feeling. We are starting training after 2 months. We are stopping. We are going from our country from 2 months. We stopped training and we are right now we are come back to train. It's a great feeling. We want to train every day, every single day. We don't have anything right now, only training, and we are studying.
The men hope the training will put them on a course to race in a world championship. Until then, the Germans and Syrians will work together, united in their love of sport.
And on that note, that's where we leave it with the sports. Back now to talk to, of course, Tite Monari, who's got the weather forecast.
All right, so welcome from the weather desk. Let's quickly have a look at this rainfall for you that Evan is talking about. It looks like only a little bit of it is expected to us, just that eastern as well as over the northeastern part of southern Africa. Something to look out for is the fell fires that we're expecting over the west. Those could lead to temperatures being really high for the Karoo, going up towards the Northern Cape province. Partly cloudy skies for tomorrow over most parts of southern Africa towards Namibia as well as over Zambia, including Malawi and Tanzania. Otherwise, clear conditions are expected over the southern tips over South Africa. Possibilities of showers for Mozambique. There is actually a good chance, 60% chance of rainfall that is expected. Then temperatures for Johannesburg just around 27 to 30 degrees. It is going to get a bit hotter towards Mafikeng as well as over Vryburg. You see temperatures starting to lower 30s, higher 30s for Vryburg. And as you move further towards the western side, that's where you should expect really hot weather. Sutherland 35 degrees, 37 for Vredendal. The Eastern Cape province joins the pack, temperatures 38 towards Grahamstown, and then Beaufort West is at 42 degrees. So all possibilities of these temperatures increasing are quite high because of the veld fire danger that we're expecting them. 38 for Keetmanshoop, and as you move further towards the northern parts of Namibia, temperatures also staying into the upper 30s for Oshakati, Tsumeb, as well as over Rundu. Hot weather moving over the central parts of southern Africa as well. It looks like there'll be a bit of clouds, but it's actually going to be slightly sunnier towards Gaborone as well as over Tabong, including Hukunzi. And then those partly cloudy skies moving towards some parts of Zimbabwe. You saw that over the eastern side, that's where you should expect possibilities of rain for Pemba, going all the way towards Quelimane and Chimoyo. Hot weather persisting over the central as well as over the southern parts of Mozambique. But then Mbabane in Swaziland and Maputo, the capital of Mozambique, are expecting possibilities of rain and temperatures also dropping to about 27. We're seeing other 20s for Farafangana as well as over Fianarantsoa, over Madagascar. But as you move further towards the northern part, it gets hotter and hotter. Majanga 34, Maindarana 31, and we're seeing Morombe also just around 31 degrees. The Comores at 30 for Moroni and 31 towards Anjouan. And finally, looking at the Seychelles as well as over Mauritius, looks like there might be a slight chance of rain towards Praslin with a maximum temperature there just around 29 and the lower 30s. And that's where I leave it for the weather, but do stay tuned here on SABC News. There'll be more.
Yeah, that was Tsietsi Manare bringing us the weather. Unfortunately, it looks as rain is not coming. The much-needed rain that the whole of Southern Africa is waiting for is not coming, Elvis.
It's not coming at all, and it seems like it's going to be a hot summer this year around. But lots of news today. Very busy newsroom today, I can tell you that. We've covered everything for you. Krejcir is still, we're still going to give you an update on that as well.
Yeah, they had a little postponement there to 11:30. Matters have just gone back in the court. That's Judge Colin Lamont. Of course, he ruled a short while ago that these men in the dock that you see, Radovan, Krejcir and his 5 accused, they weren't allowed any contact with family members. Family members wanted to hand them supplies or gifts or whatever, and Judge Colin Lamont actually was quite adamant. You will receive nothing, because the last time this happened in the South Gauteng High Court, there was an exchange of a knife, and you know that this case has been really marred by escape attempts and talks of cell phones and all
money
sorts.
being spent on those and on the escape itself, and guns and cell phones being found in the cell. So all sorts of things. But they're back in court right now. It seems like the proceedings is happening, and we'll keep you abreast here on Channel 404. You have to stay tuned.
Yeah, there have been lots of postponements at the top of the hour. Hopefully there'll be an upcount. And let's hope there's not another postponement in the case. But earlier today, Kendall, we asked the question of the day. Now, before we go to the tweets, this is our question of the day. What is economic freedom? In your world, what is economic freedom?
Well, economic freedom is actually the smaller question of what the big question is. What is freedom? I think it should be. And economic freedom really is about being able to choose where and how you earn your money.
It's as simple as earning your money. So it's no historical context.
It's not about free stuff all the time, is it?
That is the question. The question is, there's a belief, of course, that in some parts of South Africa that the windows or the doors of the economy must be kicked open. We saw the march yesterday. But let's take a look at the live tweets to the question that have been coming in today. You can tell us what Kathy's talking about there.
Kathy Bering reckons that economic freedom means the right and ability of all to earn an income, like I said, contribute to the economy, and we continue. She's still thinking about it.
Okay, she's still thinking about it. It is quite a big concept, economic freedom. In my world, I believe that we need some idea in South Africa, some economic codessa, if we are going to move forward, because I think, you know, during the negotiations of us, we simply didn't really think that much about how the financial aspects will affect the people in South Africa.
That's right, because, you know, if you look at this one, for instance, from Odette Povey, that says economic freedom can only be attained by a collaboration between all powers, empowerment from the bottom up.
Yep, you need buy-in from big business, from politics, from everybody to come and understand that, you know, economic freedom is what the people want. Now, Mr. Pigita says, at SABC Newsroom,
power should be vested in people and not corporations. You know what the interesting thing is? Is that a lot of people have forgotten that the economic freedom actually asks questions about the system that we operate in right now. The capitalist system, is it working, is it not working? We had a chat about it off air, and I think you've got lots more to say about that.
I have a lot to say about capitalism. I don't think it's worked for the people of South Africa. I don't think it's worked in general. If you look at the banks being bailed out in the Western world, it simply means that capitalism is no longer the capitalism we understand. There we have Kanya Gabela, Elvis, who makes quite a sobering point.
Now, he says it means that things cannot continue like this, and we need great leadership. Otherwise, we are heading for a disaster.
Yeah, we've seen with protests.
We've seen what happened in some other African countries.
Yeah, we have seen that. Now, this is the to be continued.
Yeah, Odette Povey comes back and she says the ability to obtain freedom, to live at an acceptable standard and reward for input, larger percentage of reward to the wealth creator. I think that's a big one.
That is a big one, because the people at the end of the day are the ones who are doing the work. Now, this is a developing story that our own reporter in Mahikeng, Northwest Province, Sello Tatai, has sent in to us. He says students at the Northwest University Mafeking campus have been evicted now from residences following a week of protests there. Now you see the pictures that he's sent in. Of course, you can see a large security presence there. You see people walking with their suitcases down the main road. Elvis, that's quite a sad sight.
And the big question is, what now for those students? Because there is no alternative at this point in time. We haven't been informed about the alternative. Those students need to prepare for exams.
Absolutely. Exams start next week. It's going to last until the end of November. It's a very difficult time for students. We saw what happened on the Wits campus here. You know, students this morning, they came to restart the academic process, and then the workers were there, you know,
it's a tough
protesting.
Time. It's a tough time, and I think the nation is at a crux, at a bit of a crossroads, and leadership needs to stand up and do the right thing, and that's what we need.
Well, that's all what we have for you here today on Newsroom. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. My name is Elvis Preston.
I'm Eben Janssen.
I'm Kendall Makamate.
We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
Goodbye.
Ciao for now.
Ligamos.